Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Junkyard Love Podcast. It is I, Andrew Tate's great grandmother. I'm happy you're here. Today's episode is wonderful. Will, he's wonderful. You'll hear very soon. Real quick, just a couple quick things. I am playing October 30th, a Halloween show in Austin. I think it's Thirsties is the venue, but as it gets closer to that day, October 30th, check my Instagram, Jacob from the internet. I'll be posting info on that. Also, San Marcos, every second and fourth Tuesday, open mic poetry night, box combo lemonade with the homies. It's awesome. We just started this open mic poetry night. So San Marcos, Lazy Days is the venue. Like 7 p.m. I think is what we're doing. Yeah. This is pretty cool. Otherwise, check out my link tree in my Instagram account if you want DJ mixes. There's 50 plus of my old DJ mixes, like live sets, old stuff, new stuff, just various genres. You might enjoy it. It's all free. It's on Mixcloud. Jacob from the internet. If you have an event coming up that needs a DJ, hit me up. I have 10 plus years of experience. I played bars, clubs, casinos, weddings, special events, holiday parties. I've played with hip hop artists, I've played with rappers, I've played with other DJs, I've played tons of raves, I've thrown my own raves, I've played country weddings. I've really done tons of things over my years in the DJ world. If you need someone who knows music, even if you just need a Spotify playlist built, I do that on the side. That's a fun couple extra bucks to make. Spotify playlists, custom mixes, that's a little bit more. Hit me up if you need a DJ. I'm your guy. I'm always looking for freelance audio, video, DJ, sound, creative design, freelance work. So hit me up, stagehand, roadie stuff, audio, video technician. I have a pretty good background at this point, so hit me up. If you need me, call me. I will travel if you pay the cost and some per diem. Don't worry, baby. If you're in the Austin area, you can just DM me on Instagram and I'll get back to you, or hit me up on LinkedIn or email me, junkyardlovejake@gmail.com. This episode is with Will Andes. If you are enjoying, hit subscribe, hit like, follow, share, whatever. Any interaction really helps. We'll see you next episode. Knowledge is power.
Reality is...
As much as I should have been lately, but there's this place in Austin here called Black Swan Yoga, and they offer hot yoga. Man, it's so good. It's like hour classes. I signed up for a membership here, and there's 5 within 10 to 20 minutes of my place. So just throughout the day, I can be chilling. Like, damn, I need to get out of the house, and I could just go to a yoga class. So it's been
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been pretty dope. Have you been to any like actual classes?
Oh yeah. So my aunt, my dad's sister, my aunt Kim, she was always like the cool aunt, got a degree in dance, like worked in Vegas, like danced like on stage as like a showgirl type thing, danced in the south of France in Monaco, just like my cool aunt. She was like, acting in New York for a long time, and she was always into yoga. And then recently, within the last couple of years, she opened her own yoga studio in South Jersey. Probably maybe 30, 40 minutes outside of Philadelphia. And, with the baby, the last 6 months, I haven't been to, many classes, but, she's the one that's kind of got me into yoga. I remember years ago, she was like, you got to come. We were down the beach on the shore. She was like, you got to come to this yoga studio with me. It's insane. It's like, everyone loves it. And it was in an old barn, like kind of in the middle of nowhere, like in South Jersey, maybe 20 minutes off the water, just kind of in basically the blueberry fields, right? Like kind of middle of nowhere. And we go into this barn, and it's the first time I've ever done hot yoga. I've done some stretching exercises, regular yoga, some whatever, but never hot yoga. And this barn was, dude, I want to say 111. It was hot. Like for me as a first timer, and we were doing a 90-minute course. And the big thing is you can't leave, you can't break, and mentally I just wasn't tough enough. And I got to the hour, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do the next 30 minutes, and I proceeded to bounce at an hour and 10, and I had to break the seal, and I went outside and caught my breath, and then just took 5, went back in, and then I just laid on my back on my mat I don't know if it was in Shavasana or like what I was, but I was just, a novice, just like laying there, like, all right, I still want to participate. I'm
Yeah.
very sorry, but here I am in all my glory and like
Yeah.
mental anguish.
That's still Shavasana. That's still like, the process of absorbing what you just took in and just kind of, laying in it. At least you went
Yeah.
back in.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. I'm a former track guy, cross country guy. So truly a glutton for punishment when it comes to like the physical activity of it. But like, dude, I love yoga. Like my dad hasn't gone to his sister's yoga class. It drives me insane. And I try to tell him all the time that like it's such a grueling workout and you're just standing and changing positions. And
Mm-hmm.
like from an athlete's perspective, and I'm like, I played college sports, but like not an athlete. And I like you try to muscle it out. Like I remember my first maybe 4 or 5 sessions. I'm just like trying to like be an athlete in there, and it just that's not how it's done. You kind of need to like succumb to it and like own your limitations and abilities, and then like you slowly start getting better. At least for me anyway. I got better when I like didn't try to muscle it out and like beat it in like a athletic standpoint, from an athletic standpoint.
Yeah, it is kind of this big analogy for clenching and letting go. Because
Yeah.
like yoga is very much let it go. Just watch the struggle in your mind and allow it to pass and just stay there and don't move and lock into that position or whatever it is. And then there's this way of working out, like more of a mechanical movement where you want to be precise and you want to get exactly right there and you want to like hold on to it and put a bunch of pressure there. And so it is, it's funny because it gets pushed into kind of the same thing as, working out. Like it is the same thing, but it's very different. Obviously the Eastern roots of it, the
Yeah.
mental side of it, but we're not reading the Bhagavad Gita as we're going to class. It's a little different. We get a little,
Right.
our teacher will sprinkle some knowledge in there for us, but we're in our own minds. For me, so I kind of started doing yoga at home. I started just following people on YouTube and doing yoga.
Yeah.
It just came across, I was trying to just improve my mental health and I got really interested in meditation and stuff. And man, it was just something else. I got obsessed with yoga at first, just doing it at home for hours and hours and just stretching and being weird and just being, stoned out of my gourd and just stretching, bro.
Yeah.
It was just life changing. It's pretty cool stuff.
In that sense, it does remind me of running, like just easier on the body,
Mm-hmm.
like less impact. Where it is like, you go for a 5 or 10 mile run, like there's some mental stuff you're working out. And like yoga, I think has that same thing, but you can kind of do it forever, right? Like it's just so much easier on the body. I think it's one of those things that like I'm always gonna like try to incorporate, like throughout the years, because I think,
Mm-hmm.
especially my aunt, like she just has a really good way of like bringing those like those ideals in the yogi world in like a digestible, like healthy way. Like I always feel not only like a good workout, but I feel like the weights kind of lifted off of me
Mm-hmm.
after I've taken her classes. And dude, when you find like a good teacher in person, I'm like such a people person. Like yoga at home, like I never really tried it because I know, like, I guess it would never really work for me. Like I need to like feel that energy of
Mm-hmm.
like the other people, the teachers, the class, like
Yeah.
whatever that like living organism is. Like I love it. Same thing with the gym. Like people going there, even though everyone's doing their own thing, like there's like this collective community of like, we're in here, sweating, trying to get better. Like I love it.
Yeah, you just said living organism. Like, what a beautiful use of words. I like that.
Thanks,
That is
man.
something
Thank
because
you.
it's cool to kind of get in tune with the vibe of the whole atmosphere, And a lot of times, a good teacher can be the door opener, the window opener for you. They can relate all the knowledge of, like I said, the Bhagavad Gita and all this Eastern traditional stuff into the Western mind and what people in that very room might be going through. I did this yoga class a couple months ago. I had some friends come with me on a Saturday, and it was such a refreshing. Oh, it was right after more than a couple months ago, right after Will Smith slap thing at the
Okay.
Oscars, and
Oh yeah.
he brought it up like at the beginning, and I was like, what a weird, like I don't want to talk about pop culture stuff right now. It's just let's do yoga, but he related it to this beautiful thing that kind of made me think throughout the whole class of like, how do I do this same thing? He's basically saying, we saw the slap. that's the release of the energy. That's the anger, like boom. But what happened the months before that, the weeks before that, the days before that, the hours before that? Like that's all building up within you. And then at some moment, someone else can have control of your energy, and you walk up on stage and just release that energy, and now your life is affected. So he kind of like explained it in this way that the whole class, I'm like, man, what a nice little, snowflake of information to place in my brain so I can think about my own life and how I do maybe those same things. So,
Yeah, what a great way to like tether, because everyone watched that, right? Like everyone saw it, everyone
yeah.
talked about it. We're all on the internet to some degree. So like, what a cool way to like tether everyone together and like get a message out, using that like weird event that we all saw. That's really cool, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Relaying it back into something that everyone in the class can, represent some part in their life, or, we all saw it, so we can all understand the knowledge that could be in it if we look at it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think yoga does that for me, and like working out in general as I've gotten older too, like living in the moment. I spend a lot of time like spending time in the past or time in the future, and like being like this, I don't know, like not ADHD, but just like very East Coast, go, 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 go type attitude. And I think like a lot of those like yoga ideals, and just being in it has like, and not just from yoga, but from meditation and like other things, has like kind of allowed me to like put that stuff away and like live more in the moment on a daily basis, which I think has been huge for my evolution and growth,
Mm.
over the last few years.
Could you expand more on like what you mean by more East Coast mindset, and then kind of the different
Yeah.
things that you have used to kind of get more in touch and present?
Yeah. So I guess like I've really noticed this, my fiance from the West Coast. And I've just noticed a lot, like everyone's different, right? But I've noticed a lot of like just day-to-day simple things where I'm very hustle bustle. And she's very laid back. And I think that's why we're a good team. But I think like for me, if it's channeled in the right way, like my mentality of like, you know, for a long time as a kid, like I guess, bear with me as I try to kind of figure out my thoughts here.
Oh,
But
no
like,
rush, brother. Flow through it.
yeah, yeah. So like, I guess I spent time not enjoying the wins, right? Like not, again, not living in the moment, right? Like, and my parents kind of did this thing where it was like, honestly, it's so weird, but my mom always talks about Will Smith and his mom on some late night show. And this is back in the day, like mid 90s, late 90s. And they like, Will got a 96 on a test, Will Smith, that is. And like his mom would be like, what happened to the 4 points? And my parents kind of like adopted that same mentality of like, oh, great, you got a 95 on a test, but like you got 5 points off. Where are the
Mm,
five? And I'm not saying that completely shaped me, but it is definitely in my personality of like, all right, like let's learn from, let's learn. Like, how can we do better? How can we achieve more? How can we get closer to our goals? Yada, yada, yada. And I think what it did is it hindered me from like enjoying the wins, living in the moment. Like, so I think part of the East Coast of like, it's never good enough, more, more, more. Whereas the West Coast vibe, spending time in California, whether it's work or talking to random people at a bar, like there's, every town's different. There's hustle and bustle, fast paced people, in Washington State, right? But as a whole, if I'm making like a gross generality, like there is a like let life come to you mentality on the West Coast. We're like, oh man, I'm 40. Like, I don't know what I want to do yet. You're 25 years old, bro. You're talking to me at a bar. Like, chill out, and I was never able to like chill out. And I think that's part of like why I've been successful, why I've like achieved the things that I've wanted to achieve. And I think part of that is like the geography I grew up in. I kind of touched on like my parents a little bit as well. But I think there's an East Coast mentality of like, even just driving on 95, like living an hour and a half from New York City, you gotta put up or shut up, right? Like you gotta get out of the way, get moving, or get onto something else. So I guess that's kind of like my East Coast mentality, or like what I think it is, or
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think I could totally see that. That makes a lot of sense. Just working, I mean, I'm from the West Coast. I'm in Texas now, but it's been less than 2 years. But I also have done a good amount of traveling, like my teenage years and through my 20s. So I experienced different kinds of people, and I feel like there is a difference in East and West Coast people. I mean, there's a lot of what's the word, generalities, or
Yeah, I
typical
used that word
things.
too. I wasn't sure if it was correct.
Yeah,
Um,
it works. It
yeah,
goes for it.
yeah, we got it. We got it.
Yeah, but there is it is cool. It's very cool to see, because I know Crystal very well. I know your fiance very well, so it's very
Yeah.
cool to see someone. She is very West Coast, and you're very East Coast, but you guys do get along. I mean, you just work so well together. Like,
Yeah, dude. I mean, like anyone, we have our moments, but she's like knowing her, living with her, being in her, orbit, definitely has like allowed me to enjoy the wins, like she has like there's like a beauty in, I don't want to say her like simplicity, but she looks at the world in like a very beautiful way, and
mm,
it's very nonchalant and low key and just like, dude, enjoy it. Like enjoy it, whereas, and I enjoy my life more knowing her, she's allowed me to be more full and whole.
mm.
So yeah, it's been a beautiful relationship.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, well, and you guys have also just recently had a child, which I do want to talk about fatherhood, but real quick,
Yeah.
I would like to just pin in. So you're talking about your mindset being an East Coaster, like this achieve this, I'm gonna arrive somewhere someday, or like I don't want to let the people in my family down, or whatever it is, all the things you've mentioned plus more. If there's someone listening that, like maybe they're stuck in that mindset and maybe they don't see how it's causing them harm, or was there any moments where you maybe realized, like, man, I got to let more of this like relaxing thing in, like I'm doing well, I have achieved, that's cool, pat on the back, but now it's okay to kind of enjoy what I've been achieving. Was there any sort of like that, or?
So I don't think I did it in the moment. But like I don't know, like I guess like the first thing I think of is like I won a state championship in high school in the half mile and the 800 meters, and I remember winning, and like my coaches or someone was going nuts on the sidelines, and I kind of just like threw up this like nonchalant shrug, and it wasn't to like try to be cool, which I, like any teenage boy, like tried to like be like, I'm the man, I don't care. But it wasn't that. It was like, I couldn't get the happiness. I was worried about like the party I was going to later that weekend, or like the argument I'd gotten in with my parents the night before the
Yeah.
race. And like, I just like wasn't, there's like, it's so funny, like the things that for me at least, like it's movies and TV and podcasts and talking to people and events in your life. But like I think of like the Kung Fu Panda, and I think of like the sensei. He says like something to the effect of like, if you have a foot in the future and a foot in the past, you're like pissing on the present, right?
Mm,
And that for whatever, like I've heard it before, you've heard it different things, but for whatever reason, like the Kung Fu Panda one like landed for me, and I love cartoons.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think like that when I think about like my life, like that's one where I look back and go, wow, that's like weird. And then even like graduating college, which doesn't seem like this amazing thing, but I'm the first person from my family, with my last name to graduate college, like a
Mm,
4 year university. Like it's something to be proud of. And it never like felt like that. Like it was just like, all right, cool, like get a job, and then it was, oh cool, you got a job, like, you know, okay, you're off mom and dad's like cell phone plan, and it was just like these like, I don't know. And then it was like, okay, like, move out with your friends, like get a place in Philly and, party and enjoy yourself, go out with girls, go to Eagles games. And then, it was just kind of like, not, I don't want to say going through the motions, but like just
mm,
not being able to like live in the moment. So like to back to your original question of like, to someone that's doing that or living like that, like you're the again, like I don't want to talk in complete cliches, but like we're kind of in that avenue. um like the destination is the journey, right? Like all the stuff you're gonna like look back on and enjoy, like sometimes it's like the meat and potatoes of it, right? It's like how the sausage gets made. It's like that stuff along the way, that minuscule, insignificant stuff, like that's the good stuff,
mm,
So I think if you can kind of take that approach that like, you know, I'm gonna like be present and like be here. And I think again, you got to figure out for like yourself what it takes to be
mm,
present, right? And sometimes it's as simple as like, oh, what's causing me anxiety? Like, oh, it's the big test I have. Like, well, then study. Like, don't procrastinate, because you're not going to be able to be here because your brain is what you haven't done yet, or you lied to someone, right? Like, well, that you know and again, I think these are all like mistakes that I've made in my life, like procrastinating on something or lying to someone. And like, lying, yeah, like helps me manipulate a situation or achieve some sort of, something I'm trying to do. But like in this, it would ruin me for, weeks, depending on
Mm-hmm.
the severity of the situation. So I think like living kind of like honest and true to yourself, knowing who you are and like, what does Will like to do and like owning that, I think that's probably the one of the most difficult things. But if I'm like giving someone advice, it's like, know thyself, right? Like learn what you
Mm-hmm.
like, learn what makes you tick, what you like to do, and then, own that and enjoy it. And I think that that will allow someone to be a little less hustle bustle and success, 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 because ultimately you're driving towards something that, might not bring you, everything you think it will, and if you can stop and smell the roses a little bit and, enjoy the hard work and the journey, I think that's like where true happiness and wholeness kind of lies.
Yeah, man, I think you hit it beautifully. I think you did.
Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
it really is like this. You said it well when you describe it being a journey. It's not a destination. It's not somewhere that you arrive. It's there is, actually, as I was framing the question that I had you answer, I would like to point out it's not like I'm trying to say be less East Coast minded, be more West Coast.
No, no,
Because
no.
it's
I
all
think
about
part of
the
my
balance.
success,
Yeah.
yeah, I think part of my success is in that, like, it's never good enough. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, part of there's that internal drive to like, and that's still there, right? But if I can like balance that with like, oh man, I kicked ass today, or wow, that
Mm-hmm.
was a great workout, or you know what I mean, and not necessarily in the past tense, but like, like just enjoying that hard work or that tough thing. It kind of allows you to enjoy the whole thing better, and then that internal drive. It's not like it's a negative thing. It's part of my greatness in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, hard work is a great thing. There's a lot of things that I have accomplished personally, and a lot of things that I have been able to experience in my life because I worked hard for it. It's the ability to be present and enjoy what you have often does come on the back of hard work. It kind of reminds me a little bit the East Coast mentality we're kind of talking about here. Reminds me a little bit about stoicism of kind of pick up your heavy rock and get walking. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of acceptance in the East Coast mindset that I think is important. Not so a lot of, and again I'm generalizing, but a lot of the West Coast is kind of how can I make this better? This is all I have now, so I can make this better, more comfortable, more safe, more blah blah blah. And then East Coast is kind of deal with how it is. It's cold outside, get to work in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And there's love in both of those. And I think as I've gotten older, as I've just met more people, I kind of get the balance of both of those things. We're calling it East Coast, West Coast, but you can call it all these, masculine energy, feminine energy, this or that. It is kind of a balance of. I don't think any one of us or any coast has it all figured out. I think it's just finding.
Certainly not.
Finding that balance of achievement, but enjoying what you've worked for, being here, but also having a little foresight of what you could be, like be a better version of yourself, but love yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you made a really, I think, important distinction or point that I was, grasping for, which is like that West Coast of like, you're almost able to like see things for what they are versus like this is how they are. And I think sometimes that West Coast, like, kind of bigger picture laid backness, it allows people or, situations to like, you can kind of see how to fix them or see how to like make them better versus like the East Coast, like just deal with it. You know what I mean? It's freezing outside, like, trudge along to work. And I think that's an important thing that like Crystal, just for example, like I guess we're just using East Coast, West Coast because it's my life.
Yeah.
And we're talking. But yeah, like she's kind of able to like see things from, that view that like I can't because I'm like in it, and she can kind of like from afar look at things and be like, oh, let me make this suggestion, or let me like, talk this out in this way that like I can't see because it's like go, go, go. So
Hmm. Well, I mean, it's big of you to, as you get older, to kind of see where she could help you. There's a lot of like strong masculine traits that sometimes you gotta bend the knee to. I'm like, okay, I think maybe she does know best. There's something for me to learn here, and there's plenty for her to learn from you. I'm sure. That's
Yeah, I mean,
dance.
we're a good team. When we're like in any relationship, but when we're really communicating and there's nothing holding us back and we're like just freely boom boom boom, like we're good, you know what I mean? Whether we're playing a board game or whether we're like, trying to figure out how to like, organize this thing or schedule this thing, like when I make suggestions, she gives me feedback. Like when we're not communicating well, is when we like, we get into a little bit of trouble. But when we're good and talking out our thoughts and feelings, we can kind of do whatever we want to do in a sense.
Yeah, the two people together when they combine, they create a third superhuman of sorts. And
Yeah,
now you've actually created a superhuman child. So, dude, how's being a dad? How do you like
it's
it?
it's good. It's good. I found patience that I didn't know I had. And I think it's every parent's like it's the greatest thing I've ever done. Like that whole thing. And there's a lot of truth in that. Um, the funny thing for me, I guess, is like Crystal carries the baby, right? The woman carries the baby, and then the baby's there, and they kind of already have this connection, and I don't have that advantage of like, growing the baby. I'm just like there supporting, and there's so many challenges and things that come your way that like everyone in the world can try to talk to you, but like you kind of just have to do it. Like I feel if we ever had another kid, like I feel so much more prepared.
Mm,
I know so much, and like I kind of can't. Like I'm the guess the first of like my really close friends to have a kid, and people they always say like people want other people to have kids because it's like join the club, have a kid, like we your kids. Like I don't. I just want to like be there for my friends because like I feel
mm,
like I know a lot and I have a lot to offer. So like I want like one of my friends to have a kid just so I can be like, dude, I got what call me at
yeah.
3 a.m. I got you. Like I'll come over, I'll show you whatever you need. But back to like for me and my daughter, Bennett, like maybe it's the same with the son too. I don't know, but like our relationship grows like every day, right? It kind of feels like a romantic relationship in that sense where it's like we're like building this thing because
Mm,
we didn't know each other before, and neither did Crystal. She's inside her belly, but there's something there. And
right.
for me, like I like any father, first time father, like freaking out, like in all the ways. But I feel like we're like we have a bad day or a bad few hours, and she's crying or upset, and like she's not laughing at me, like we're no. And then the next day isn't a great day, right? Or we have two bad days in a row, and then she doesn't sleep the entire night. Like it's cultivating this, like we're building this relationship together. It reminds me a lot of like a romantic relationship.
Mm.
It's very interesting that way.
Yeah, yeah. Love is definitely, we think, yeah, love is again another thing you don't arrive at. It's something that's cultivated. It's
For
something that's
sure.
learned about every day, and it's something that's it's fragile too. Because some days, like when it's frustrating, I'm sure if you have a couple bad days in a row and like other things, maybe work isn't going right, maybe there's an argument. Like it's like, man, I can't even access that love that I was just drowning in yesterday. You know, it,
Yeah, or in like patience, right? It's like sometimes
mm,
like a couple different times. I'm the oldest of four kids, and my sister's 7 years younger, my brother's 8 years younger, and then my youngest brother's 13 years younger. So I have experience with like changing diapers and babysitting, but like not like a true infant, or a true baby. That's there's this is your baby, this is your reality, this is your life. So yeah, like you're working your butt off, you get home from work, and there's no relief of like, oh, I have some me time. Like it's your family time, which you eventually kind of morph that into your own me time, right?
mm,
But there's been moments where you're like, okay, like I need to put the baby down and I need to like run to the bathroom and like take 30 seconds to 60 seconds and like
mm,
collect my patients because I feel them, getting thinner and thinner. Or like the baby's around and I'm like having a discussion with Crystal and it's like she's not, being receptive, or she's not, I'm being a jerk, whatever the situation is. And then like, voices are elevated and it's like, yo, like
mm,
that's not the environment we're trying to, you know what I mean? And it's just like, you kind of have to like, it's a humbling, check yourself experience, where you're like, who is the man that I am and growing
Mm,
into, and who do I want my daughter, to see
mm,
and feel? Because like you realize very quickly that they they will take, as like, as much as you kind of vibe off of them, they are vibing off of you from pretty early on.
mm,
I felt like this sense of like, maybe not intuition, but just like this little like sponge, like a couple weeks in, where it was like, oh, like, and then like you're, like simply as like rocking them to sleep. Like I felt like, so my thing with Benny is like, I would like have her in my arms, and then I would close my eyes, and I kind of knew what she wanted, but then I would like whatever felt like very like, like lethargic and sleepy to me, like
mm,
that would like, and then I started thinking about like my fingertips and my hands as like
mm.
these like, a way to like give my love to her, which like, again, it's like crazy.
Yeah,
But just
not
like
at
these
all.
different like mental tricks you kind of do. And then when I'm doing that, or I'm like, all right, like I really need you to go to sleep, but like I'm stressed, like I'm like, when you're in that zone like that, it just, for
Mm,
me, it like never led to like her actually going to bed in a timely manner. Like what worked was like, all right, like my fingers and hands are like vessels of like love and
uh,
support and sleep and dreams. And like, yeah, I don't know, like that's like,
uh,
that was like helped me like forget the frustration or forget the tough hour we just had. And it was just
yeah,
like, I'm here for you, but you need to go to bed.
yeah,
I love you. You need some sleep. You're well fed. Your diapers changed. We laughed. We
yeah.
loved. We cried. Like we did it all, and we'll do it all tomorrow.
Yeah. What, yeah, what a beautiful way to create like a present story for your child, Like if there is some sort of magical way in which they're sharing in your, thoughts or like whatever you're kind of seeing as you close your eyes and you're seeing your own fingertips become this like warm, embracing, like flowing wave of sorts,
Yeah.
it is. Well, that is one of the beautiful things about love in general. Certainly when it comes to a child, but even at times when just a romantic relationship, when you love someone, or even just a relationship, I suppose, is your peripheral edges expand. Who we are in the edges of our body. We think we're something inside this meat sack inside this body, and our edges are are the edge of our legs and our arms and our feet and our hands and our head and whatever. But just as when we are driving in a vehicle, we kind of expand that. Now we know where the front bumper is, we know where the back bumper is, we know the headlights are. We know if we get close to anything with those, now multiple feet of distance around us, it's going to cause damage. So you protect those things. You don't want to hit anything with those, and you do kind of the same thing when you let someone you love into your peripheral of who you think yourself to be. You kind of combine with them. You kind of you're now intertwined with that being, and the edges of who you think yourself to be are now expanded into that other person. So I'm rambling about just kind of the way we love
No.
each other and absorb as one. It really
Yeah,
is.
and it's you are like, I like the car example a lot, because like you ride around in the car as a family, right? So like your
Mm,
car, your vessel is not exactly yours anymore, right? Like I kept saying like, yeah, like my life, not in a negative way, but like my life's no longer mine. Like I live my life.
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
still have me and I still want to do things, but like there's a greater good that like Crystal and I are both working on, and like, it's for Benny now, right? So like
mm-hmm,
the car example I kind of love, because like when we're a family unit in the car, like
mm-hmm.
there feels like a
Yeah.
specialness.
This is your vehicle to love.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just getting to the store, to the party, or like to my parents' house or whatever. It's like we're out in the world. It is weird how like having a kid kind of like expands your love, in general, like, and I think for me personally, it's, and again, maybe it's back to that East Coast thing, but like I found patience I didn't have. Like I'm loving, the neighbor's dog a little bit more. Like I'm able to like look at a stranger in like a different way. Like this stranger was like a helpless little baby at one point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like to kind of thinking about things like that, and it's raising kids is, it's not the hardest thing in the world, but it's like, it can be tough, and yeah, people screw up. So like kind of like having like a just bigger, softer side for like
Mm.
humanity and community. And like, I'm so much more mentally thinking about like my community because now I have a
Mm.
daughter, and don't know exactly what that is. It's probably pretty simple, but yeah, I'm like thinking about like the other people more, and what are we doing, like as a collective,
Mm.
which is kind of, we touched on that with like yoga and the gym and like that collective consciousness,
Mm.
which I knew existed, but I was kind of doing me, and now doing me involves like protecting and loving and like
Mhm.
serving this beautiful little baby.
Mm.
So like thinking more about like what I can do for my fellow man,
Right.
um, you know, to help
Yeah.
my daughter in the future or whatever that is. I don't know. I haven't
Yeah.
totally figured that out.
No, yeah, no, that is a good perspective because we are kind of contributing, the collective unconscious is made up of us. We are a piece of it. We're a certain little percentage of that pie. And it also is a little bit of that planting seeds of trees, not for you to sit in the shade, but for your grandchildren to sit in the shade of. That, I
Uh,
don't know if you've heard that
yeah, for
analogy or
sure.
whatever before, but it is sort of that you're. I'm sure there's a natural, you can pretend that you don't notice it, but if you have just the ability to kind of think ahead a little bit, you can visualize, oh, if there's no nice, friendly world that's being created in the future, then what is my daughter going to live in? So
Right.
you kind of want to see the community and even just the civilization that you're raising your daughter to be a part of. You want to do good for that too. So I could see how that's a kind of a reoccurring good cycle of caring about one another.
Yeah, and it feels like and I don't think this is the case as a whole, but like I feel more of a sense of community with her birth, but and I think people think the way that I do in that like sense of goodness. It just, in the world with today, like I think there's far less people like controlling this narrative of like we're all split and everything's screwed up, and like I think there's so many more people that are thinking the way that we think, or that like
Mm.
I think there's a lot more goodness than like social media and television media, and like I think there's so much more goodness and sweetness in the world than like hate. um
Mm.
so like even though it feels like the narrative is like more split and hateful, I don't know if it's me just having a baby and like being more full of love, but I do believe that there's so much more goodness
Mm.
than hate
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I mean, me, you, and Crystal, when you guys were in Austin a while back, we had a wonderful discussion on this, like kind of the state of the world and kind of how it's painted, and we talked about the media and stuff. And
Yep, you're right.
I think a lot of the podcasts and YouTube stuff that I listen to, some of the books I read, kind of help me understand a lot of this. A lot of our more nihilistic, negative thinking, or like kind of thinking, wow, the world looks like it's on fire or something lately. It's kind of the people who control the lens we're looking through, the people who are in control of not only the lens but the picture frame, or the frame of the lens that's being held in the
Yeah,
lens. They're pointing at these things that want to keep us online. They want us to watch them. They want us to talk about them. They rise quickly to the top of our discussions, and they rise quickly to the top of the things that we debate about and we argue about in this like warlike way of speaking, because it's seemingly the most important. It's the same thing when you're driving and you see a wreck. It's like, well, you can't look away. You want to see what's going on. It's a threat that may be happening. It's tapping into our evolutionary biology, and kind of gaming us. But the truth is, there's a lot of beauty as well. Even though these are the things that social media and the news and our media in general is kind of putting a lens on for us to see, it's not the only truth. There's a lot of beauty, and I think living in our modern age is kind of an act of remembering that and not being too caught up with this damn thing. Not
yeah,
not
for
looking through
sure.
this window, but looking through this window here, like of life. What's right in front
Yeah,
of you.
I heard about this game the other day where you go to dinner with your friends or whomever, your family, and the first one to touch their phone has to
Mm.
pay.
Pay the tab, yeah.
Um, yeah, and I haven't played it yet, but it's something that I'd like to propose at some point. You know, so long as people aren't working and it's not like going to affect everyone, I'd like to kind of, you know, throw that on people as we sit down and order the appetizers, like see if people are down for it. Because I think, like you just said, there's so much value in, like, you know, tuning out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That's like,
exactly. Focusing on what's right here. And it's
yeah,
distracting. I mean, your whole conversation with your friends at dinner could be about one Facebook post that, like, while we're waiting for them to bring water, we're all kind of looking at our phones and it's like, man, Hillary Clinton just did this. That's some bullshit. And they talk about it for
yeah,
45 minutes.
right. As
Yeah.
opposed to like just let it organically kind of develop. And I guess, you know, that is part of our organics now. Like we're tied to these things.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. I want to play that game and see what happens. You know,
Yeah.
see how uncomfortable people are. Like, and I'd like to like do more of that. I'm on my phone a good amount for work. But and you know, at nighttime here and there. But you know, raising a daughter, like it's also had me like, you know, kind of change like who I want to be. You know what I mean? Like I don't want, you know, it's impossible. She's gonna like realize what a phone is, and she's already like, if we're on them or doing something, like she reaches for it and grabs it. But
Right.
having a child's been like really good for me because it's like forced me to like look at myself in like a whole new light. But especially the phone thing because it's you know, and as like, you know, raising a young girl, like it's scary out there. I mean, I
Hmm.
love the internet. Like I always make the joke that
Oh,
like
dude.
the internet is undefeated. You know, like I see something on the internet, and I have Crystal saying it now. Like she's like, the internet's
There's,
undefeated, man. She'll
there's,
send me some hysterical video. But there's like a time and place for it, like which we've lost like that cadence for the cell phone
mm,
because it's in your pocket, it's next to your bed, it's, you know, it is all day every day. And I think that there's got to be, or I'd like to kind of um dive in personally into like what my cadence will be with my phone. And
mm.
same thing with my daughter. You know, I want her in the outside world, like, you know, mixing it up with the people and not stuck to this digital version of you know, what life is, you know, through that lens, you know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's, man, I wonder about that a lot. Like, just one day, if I have children, I mean, right now it seems so easy. Like I'm like, no phones. I'm not giving them phones till they're 16 or something, you know. But what an impossible task! And now, you know, I'm sure plenty of people said that same thing. And I mean, it's gamed. It's completely made for our psychology to love. Man, it's bright,
Yeah,
flashy colors. It's amazing in every way. So yeah, it's definitely probably something. I can imagine it would probably take up a good amount of your thought. I mean, I think I wouldn't mind just thinking, how am I gonna, you know, make sure my child is aware of this. They know how to use it very well because they're going to be living in a world where it's important to know your way around technology for sure.
mm-hmm.
But also, you know, it's a tool that you use, and how do you make sure it doesn't use you? That's something that I think some, you know, people our age and a little bit younger are definitely dealing with. You know, we had social media in our phones and stuff when we were in teens or late teens, so we're kind of able to look at life without it and life with it and see how much it affects us and who we are with it and without it, and hopefully teach other people.
And like, you know, like I remember being an adult, you know, before Instagram, right? So like all those like rewards, and I'm just using Instagram to like give us a time frame here, but like they've only recently in the last, I don't know, however many years, fine tuned that addictiveness and that reward system, right? So like when we first had smartphones, like they didn't know how to completely captivate us. Maybe from like an ergonomic standpoint and a user, and like, you know, obviously they were taking data to figure out how to make them better and smarter and faster and, you know, more user friendly. But like we're in this age of like, how do we keep the masses eyeballs glued to this thing at all
Mm,
times, you know? Which like that that sort of like money and effort into that, like that's where it's really kind of started to like scare me. And I like my
mm,
plan, like as a gross plan for the future, like you know, I want my daughter to be 13 years old realistically before she has a cell phone. Now maybe I cave at 11 or 12 because she's playing sports, she's in middle school, you know, she
right.
needs to be able to reach out to us. But you know, obviously, you know, there's restrictions, or you know, I need to know who you're texting. You can't just text and call anybody. Like, these numbers need to be on an approved list. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I made a new friend. Okay, great. What's their phone number? Who are their parents? Like, I don't want to be a helicopter parent. Like, you have to let your kid, like, scrape their knees and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I will be diligent when it comes to technology.
Right.
Just because I think it's the future. It's
Yeah.
unavoidable. Like you said, and anyone growing up today needs to know how to operate in this world.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a scary one. I mean, we're seeing massive depression, and
Uh-huh.
there's just a lot of negative side effects because we're not. It doesn't seem like we're supposed to live in these giant pods of cities or like be as connected as we are to people across the world. It's a wild time, man.
Yeah, no, it's something very new in the human civilization and the human species. It's something completely obtuse compared to what we've ever experienced before. I mean, think about it. 2007 was when the iPhone came out, and the world is completely changed in every direction and way. And
Totally.
we as consumers are like hardly able to understand it, and the people who are at the helms of the ship, a lot of times we think like, oh, everyone who's at the core of these is they're evil and they're all this. Like, I don't think they understand it. They're just following their quota. They're just letting capitalism just completely take them away with next upgrade, more, get more eyes on it. More productivity from us means more eyes on our devices. Yes, that's good. We don't stop and think about the whole thing.
Right. Like, how many of those high ranking officials or executives like actually understand the algorithm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? It's maybe
Yeah.
a handful of people. Like,
Yeah.
most of them are like plug and play. Like, this is what the Netflix algorithm says. So,
Yeah.
your show's on the homepage, your show's not. You know what I mean? It's like we're
Yeah.
kind of becoming slaves to
Well,
like this AI algorithm.
well, and it's a new area of human. I don't know, but propaganda, I guess, is a way because they're now in control of things that they almost didn't want to be in control of. They are affecting humans in the way that our culture runs in ways that they didn't plan on. It's like, well, that's just kind of like a whoops, didn't mean to see that. Like all the
Right.
things that, they discover. I'm sure you've heard arguments about, this AI doesn't favor people of African American descent because blah blah blah. It's like because this complicated thing just doesn't see the darkness in their skin pigment versus it's this complicated. Pandora's box is a great word for it. Is we're
Yeah.
experiencing, we did all these things and we're like next, but there's a lot of little doors that are being opened that we have to deal with that are affecting our consciousness, our collective consciousness, and us as individuals, and how we form in groups and how we react together in tribalistic ways. Again, it's gaming our biology. There's just a lot of things that we're dealing with as a species that nobody really made a plan for. And so it is up to us with elegance to try to, enjoy it, but not be too caught up in it, not
Yeah.
overindulge.
Yeah, and I think that's like the happy medium, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's that sweet spot of like, all right, I'm going to use this as a tool. I'm going to laugh at it, but I'm going to be able to like put it away, and be a normal human. Because like, I don't biologically, we're not built for this,
Yeah.
Like, we haven't evolved to be here. Like, things
Yeah.
are moving really really quickly. Um, did that kind of remind me of? Did you hear about that AI rapper?
Dude,
Did you hear about?
yes. I,
It's like, that's crazy.
dude, okay. So I also, oh yeah, well, go ahead and explain this AI rapper for somebody who's
No,
never heard
okay,
this before.
so correct me. I don't know too much, but my understanding is an AI rapper was created, got signed to a record label in some
Mm-hmm.
some like some I use record label. I don't know if that's musically like still what's happening, but got signed, got a deal, and then I guess the creation of the avatar of this rapper is black. Again, I don't know too
Mm-hmm.
much, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I guess started using like the N word, racial stuff, and
Yeah.
then proceeded to get canceled.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, I don't mean to laugh if anyone's upset or offended, but it's
No, but it's
just
hilarious.
like like
It's
so
so
like
hilarious.
like AI rapper, avatar creation, record deal, canceled. Like,
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how are we like, this is a rabbit hole that like
Yeah. Man,
I guess object is funny,
it held up this big mirror that we didn't want to look at. It got weird really fast. So basically, what you do when Will said they created an AI rapper, basically what they do is they have an AI, they have an algorithm that you train, you show it, 100 or 1,000 or 100,000 different songs, and you say, make me a song or whatever it is. So they have this database of different things that it's pulling from. I haven't looked into it enough to know like how they pull information for its quote unquote personality, like how it gets to the point where it has an avatar, it creates that, does it identify with those things, and that's why it's saying the N word. But I will say something very interesting. I'm very front row seat for this whole AI rapper thing.
Yeah, I
because
figured.
because rap is, man, rap and hip hop as a culture is interesting to put to try to calculate with computers and numbers, because think about like kind of the diss and the respect and there's different sides of hip hop that are very deeply intertwined with culture that I don't know that you can in ones and zeros explain very well. Because there is, like right now, I could, in a very respectful to hip hop way, write a diss song against Kendrick Lamar. Like I'm a nobody, so it's going to go unnoticed. But if I was, say Mac Miller, or we've heard these diss songs before between these rappers, it's very, very personal, but also very on the surface. And it uses this language of hip hop that goes through the culture that everybody listens to and respects. I don't know. It gets very complicated. Danny Brown, the rapper, if you've heard of him, he actually has. I haven't listened to it yet, but he just came out with a diss song against this AI. And so I'm
that's
curious,
genius.
like what, like is the AI going to come back at him? Is he going to clap back? Is it going to get weird? Like,
Yeah, I hope so. Just to see the theater of it.
Yeah,
I love Danny Brown, by the way. He
dude, have you heard his new
he
podcast?
that so yeah, I'm not like every episode, but I've heard bits and pieces.
It's hilarious.
Um, I love Tom Segura too, so
Mm.
like I listen to like a lot of his stuff, but that's kind of how I heard about the Danny Brown podcast. But um, dude, I've been on Danny Brown for years. Like that weird show he had on Viceland. Like
Yeah.
the way his brain works is super duper
He's so weird. I
interesting to
love him.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his experience is a wild one. Like some of the stories he has, like he's a wild man.
Yeah, I really like that he has not only his own show, but I mean, I liked him. He was on Joey Diaz's podcast, and he's been on Your Mom's House with Tom Segura and Christina P. He's been on there a couple of times too, and he's just someone, man. Whatever he's saying, you're listening to, because his way of sharing his stories is just so honest. He's
Yeah.
like as he's explaining this shit, he's realizing that he was completely a terrible person in this story. Like he was the
Yes,
worst.
yes,
But
yes.
he's like, I don't know, man. Fuck it. Like he just comes to terms with it and moves on. His perspective is awesome.
He also, I think, has one of my favorite laughs, like of all time, dude. Like
Yeah.
he's good. He's good. Yeah, man. So like that's like I'm a huge podcast dude. I mean, I'm in my car for work. I'm driving around. I'm visiting people. So and I'll do the radio thing. I'll do sports. I'll do music or like serious or whatever. But like I'm a junkie for the comedians podcast just because
Mm,
like I don't know. There's the free form conversation for hours where you can really get to know someone, like, and then you can kind of become a fan of them, and like really like learning how people think and feel. I think podcasts have, at least for me, in the last like 10 years, like become a big part of like my consumption of
mm.
entertainment, for sure.
Yeah, man,
Um,
I'm in the same boat. I've become such a huge podcaster, just in the sense of I listen to podcasts all day. Like
yeah,
I'm always just listening to podcasts. I don't know what other people listen to. They just listen to the radio and stuff. What?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like music, like the Spotify, which
I
I
just shit on
do.
them. I'm like, what are you peasants? What do you listen to?
This is
I'm a terrible.
music. What is 2006 of you?
They're like, dude, I'm just trying to drive home from work. I'm exhausted.
Yeah,
Jesus,
dude.
I'm judged now.
Yeah, it's the anniversary of Mac Miller's death. I'm trying to honor him, dude, by listening to some albums, right? Like what the fuck?
Oh,
I think that was yesterday, dude. So
it was yesterday.
I think it was yesterday. I'm not 100% on that. I just saw a post, and that was like enough for me. So, dude, I didn't realize I kind of I loved Mac Miller.
Mm,
So I moved to Florida I moved to Fort Lauderdale from Philadelphia in like 2015, I think. and took a job. It was great for my career. Kind of like I needed to do it. I also like personally was going through a bad breakup, and it was just like I needed to get a hold of myself. So I moved down to Fort Lauderdale, and dude, the Divine Feminine came out, and I fell in love with that album. And I had always been a fan of Mac a little bit, but it was like me being an idiot from South Jersey, Philadelphia. I was like, oh, Pittsburgh, like fuck the Penguins, right? Like just like stupid sports stuff. But I knew Kids was good, and I knew that he was pretty good. And then my little brother was like, yo, this dude is the real deal. So I bought my brother like tickets to see him in Atlantic City at like the House of Blues, like for his birthday or Christmas or something. And I didn't even remember this. My brother reminded me of it. But anyway, so I fell in love with the Divine Feminine, and then it was like, dude,
Wait,
Mac
did you
was my
go to a show?
guy. No, he took a friend, but I've seen Mac. I've seen Mac a handful of
Oh,
times,
okay.
and
I'm jealous.
but yeah. Dude, it's funny. Like I got so drunk at one show. It was at Festival Pier in Philadelphia. Like I saw him, but I didn't see him. Like I don't have any memories of it because
Yeah.
I was a young 20-year-old kid
I've
just
done that
getting
plenty of
absolutely
times, brother.
blasted. Yeah. And it's just like, no, I saw him. I swear to God, I saw
Yeah.
him. But like,
Yeah.
it's like, what
My
what
body
songs
was
did he play?
physically there. That's all I
Yeah, I
remember.
was just like we connected. However, I don't even share a single thread of the memory. But anyway, I fell in love with that album, and I was like, wow, this guy's doing like a lot musically that I like am in awe of. And then Swimming comes out, and I'm like absolutely floored. But so he passes, you know, all the celebrity deaths that like have happened, and dude, I've been saying for years that like so many people are famous now because like 50 years ago there was three movie stars, and now
Mm-hmm.
there's so many famous people that like we're gonna have dead famous people every day in
Mm-hmm.
20, 30 years. It's gonna get crazy in that way. But him and Robin Williams are the ones that like really messed me up because I was just
Oof.
such a true fan of those two, and in very different ways. But like I love everything, a lot of the things that Robin Williams did as well. But so that floored me when he passed, and then Circles came out, and I had like this like he didn't do it, like this isn't right, there's something
Mm.
wrong about this. And then I caught, maybe like almost maybe a year went by, and I didn't like I had heard bits and pieces, but I didn't like listen to it straight through like I would other Mac Miller albums. And then I heard a piece that I really like was like, whoa, this is sick. And then I kind of looked into it, and I read like in a Vulture article about, I forget his name, but the guy that finished it for him, and kind of like his, how he put the pieces together, Mac's
I don't know about
family.
this. What?
Yeah, I forget the guy's name. But this guy's like one of those like musical geniuses. Man, I wish I could remember his name. I can look it up if you want me
Was
to
it
or
one of his
whatever. But
producers, Germ, maybe?
yeah, but it was like well, we should get this guy's name just so we can put it out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I can like throw it in later.
Yeah, but so anyway, he like Mac comes up to him at a party, and he says something to him, and I guess like it's all in this Vulture article, which is an amazing read. The Something to the effect of like Max said like, oh man, I didn't even know if you would consider what I do music. And then you'll like this. So then this guy is a genius. Like we have to figure out his name, but I will in a second. But he says to Mac like, do you know what the Webster definition of music is? And Mac was like, nah. And this guy's, and again, I'm butchering this, and I apologize, but he says it's like four words. The Webster definition of music is like a collection of sounds. I'm pretty
Mm.
sure it's something to that effect, right? Like a
Mm.
collection of sounds is what the definition of music is. He's like, dude, so like when you think about the simplicity of that, there's like endless possibilities
Damn.
and beauty in that definition. So like what you do, bro, it's more than music. So that was their first meeting. I'll pull this guy's name up.
Wow.
But anyway, so I like just had this aversion to Circles, and I read this article, and I was like, all right. And then I just listened to that album start to finish and was floored. And he
It's a
talks
very
about
good
like,
album.
yeah, it's really good. And he talks about like these are the songs because he talks about how they work together. And Mac just did. I guess he didn't have the like the know-how of like, hey, I want this to be more bassy, I want this to be more echoey, like whatever, and I don't have a musical bone, I just know what I like. But he didn't know how to like do it,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy did. So Mac would like say, I want this to sound more like this. And the guy would be like, oh, so like do this and this. And he kind of taught Mac how to produce and edit and whatever that world is. So he goes through the album and says, like, I didn't touch these 6 songs. These 4, I just did what I thought Mac would want. He's like, so
Mm-hmm.
I fucked around with these 4, not like a lot, but he said he tried to do as little as possible. So when I read this article about like this guy's love for Mac Miller,
Yeah.
his dedication to him, and how his family kind of reached out and asked him to finish. Um, and I guess my understanding is it was like swimming in circles, and then there was supposed to be one more album after. Um, yeah, which is really heartbreaking. But it's just funny how you. I'm not married to any idea that I have. Like I'm kind of old enough and smart enough to know that I'm not married to any like ideas. Like I'm willing to change and think and evolve. But I like had this love for this guy, and then this like as just a pure fan, and then this like aversion to like someone finishing his work because it's
Mm.
not his. And I thought I was taking this like altruistic stand for like my fandom for Mac and like
Mm.
him. And then like I read this article and I'm like floored. And then anyway, so last night I saw a post that it was like the anniversary, and I was like, circles, boom, start to finish.
Yeah.
I was like cooking dinner and baby was asleep and just like rocked out the album, and it was awesome.
Oh, it brings you somewhere too. So yeah, I didn't realize it was that close to the date of death anniversary. I'm gonna have to listen to some Mac later today too. Uh,
Yeah, I know it was September. I'm not
Man, the
sure if
amount of
it's the
years would
exact
probably
date.
shock me. It's probably been many years by now. It's because I still remember that was definitely. It's so interesting that you say Mac and Robin Williams because those are definitely two of my top. That when they died, it affected my day, my week, my well, because we have this thing. Back to what you said about how many famous people there are. Basically how many people outside of your immediately family, friends, coworkers, acquaintances that and kind of love in a weird way. There's a little bit of a worship, but an appreciation, when it comes to famous
Yeah,
people that you're a fan of.
yeah,
And now we have the internet where we're connected to these people in more ways than we ever have. It's not that we just see Taylor Swift's album once every 2 years. We get to see her make it. We get to see her break down about it. We get to see her talk about it for hours on a documentary afterwards. We get to see her tweet every day about how she's frustrated with it, or she had a bad hair day and now we relate to her more. Like we're more connected with these, famous people or artists than we ever were. And so when it's a loss, it really is a loss. I mean, that's like
yeah.
it's something different than it was.
And it's like it's kind of funny the way that there's no like mysteriousness to like stars anymore.
Mm,
All right, so
mm.
real quick, the guy, his name's John Brion,
John Brion.
Brion.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just like Vulture, Mac Miller, Circles, John Brion,
Sounds like a
it's a
great
decent
article.
article.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of like it just gave me the confidence that it was done in the right way to like
Hmm.
listen to it. But um there's no like there's no mysteriousness when it comes to like your celebrities or your stars anymore, just because we're living with these people 24/7. You follow them on Instagram, you see what they have for breakfast. Like I I, I like I don't want to be like the old guy that's like, oh, I miss the days when, like, it's really cool to be able to like the access to these people and to know what's going on. Like it's really cool, but there is something lost in the mysteriousness, I think.
Mm.
Who's like the amazing actor that played Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York? Um, Daniel
No.
Daniel Day Lewis.
Okay.
Daniel Day Lewis. Like that dude, I'm guessing doesn't have an Instagram, right? And he's probably like, that dude. He's like a shoe cobbler in like Italy in the off season. And I don't know exactly, but seriously, like, there's not many guys like that anymore because they're like you're never going to get your music out there if you don't have an Instagram, right? You're never going to be able to like, you know, you're just never going to make it. Like you have to
Hmm.
like give so much of yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And not that I feel bad because I think it's like you're doing it for money and all the things that you want and success and you want to get your music out there or your movies out there or your acting, but I'm not sure it's worth it. In a lot of like anonymity is for me like
Yeah.
priceless.
Right.
You know, like yeah, like rich and anonymous versus rich and, famous, like all day, every day.
For real.
Um,
Dude, I think about that a lot. And I've had people on that have changed my perspective of even how I do it because I'm a very, I post a lot on social media all the time. I've always been someone who like keeps up to date. I share my opinion. I like living out loud as, I'm an artist, a creator, a poet. So like, here's my opinion. Maybe it's different than yours. Um, and I think about it. I've had a guest who talks about how he would hate to be that exposed all the time, like trying not only to explain yourself but then also trying to control what people think about you so they don't get the wrong idea. And okay, I did share that moment when I was feeling that way, but that doesn't represent who I am. And you're kind of like shaping your avatar to other people and making sure your masks are in a way that is presentable, that doesn't get you, kicked out of the hierarchical group. Hard words to say,
yeah,
out of the hierarchy, because
yeah, for sure.
exposing yourself gives you more opportunities to um, be ostracized for being different, for people to misunderstand or misinterpret who the thing you're putting out or who they think you are. Um, and it gets very, exposed is a word that I had a podcast guest use. And sometimes I think about that a lot. I'm like, man, do I really want to be um, uh, out here being so vulnerable? Like, why don't I just shut up and kind of share only the certain little aspects that are going to reach fulfillment in this way, or I'll arrive somehow, some way, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, again, I know you a little bit, so, but like, I would think that if someone watches you for a small amount of time, I think they would think that you're coming from a pretty good place of like love and acceptance. Like that's when I think of you. I think of, honesty, love, acceptance. Whether it's your rapping or your, some posts that you've, taken the time to write. Like I don't know. I don't think, and I don't know you behind closed doors in that sense, but like I don't think that you need to be worried about being exposed because I think you're pretty true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you for saying that too. And I think it does reign true. I think a lot of a lot of the magic these days, the last few years especially, is like I'm genuinely trying to live honestly. Like I'm trying to live openly and with truth, and kind of just stumble through life out loud in a lot of ways with this kind of stuff. Like the podcast is, it's everything I want it to be, and it's about the guests, but it's also very, it's a lens to me too. You're getting whatever I'm going through, and it's kind of my
Mm-hmm.
blog in a lot of ways. So, yeah, but it's something that I struggle with. I think I go through phases of wanting to close down, and because sometimes other people's outside energy can throw off what you're doing. I think there is some sort of, if there is somebody that's out there watching me not wishing the best for me, like I think maybe their intentions might have some sort of effect in some ways if I'm not careful, or maybe I can be influenced in certain ways that I didn't really want to be, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that could be exhausting, but I don't think that maybe it's an impossible ask, but like maybe like not letting not letting that those voodoo doll thoughts for somebody that doesn't have good feelings towards you or thoughts or wishes like that that can't I
Yeah,
don't it's easier said than done, but I think that you can not rise above, but you can like take that's
yeah,
fine,
right.
let it happen,
Cool.
like that's yeah, exactly,
Brush it off.
exactly.
Yeah.
um
It's like
I'm
paying
very
attention to the
different.
bad comment. You get a
Yeah,
bunch of
you
you get
can't.
95 good comments, you get one that says like you suck, and you're like, man, I suck. It ain't
Yeah,
the
but
truth.
right. Well, and that's the thing is like, yeah, reading 95 good comments is amazing, but like it just takes one shitty comment to like mess you up. So then
Mm.
like I think the solution there is just like no comments. Like again, like you're growing, you're trying to interact with fans, you're wanting to see constructive criticism. But you have to like I guess you I guess you have to like look at it through a lens of like not taking it personally and just like looking at it from a, but again, you don't know these people or you
Mhm.
don't know where they're coming from. Um, I guess you probably, if I'm you, like maybe you're like getting asking more people that you whose opinion you respect and love to watch and comment. Like
Mhm.
you send something to me and you go, Will, you'll watch this when you can, and tell me what you think, and then at least like I'm sort of impartial, and my critiques or my suggestions, you know, come wrapped in love, wrapped in
Mm.
like we wanting the best for you.
Right.
And we know each other enough. We didn't grow up together, so like you can kind of be in my head as I write this critique or these suggestions or tell you what I like or
Right.
don't like. And at least maybe that way it's not like this nameless, faceless comment. It's like a comment wrapped in friendship.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's a good note to any sort of artist or anybody creating anything or sharing anything is not all opinions are not that not all opinions aren't valid. Like anybody's opinion has validity, but there's only certain people who you should allow the validity in to your actual art. Like if it's someone you love and care about, or somebody you ask personally, or someone that you genuinely respect their opinion. But if it's someone you don't even know, it's some random like Reddit troll, and they have like a Ferrari as their DP, like yeah, Ford guy 5869. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to take in his what he says the same way
No.
that like your loving best friend just told you. So there's
Right.
a difference, and it is an act of kind of glancing that stuff off. I think that the more time passes, the more I am, admittedly, pretty unfazed by a lot of good comments and bad. I try
Yeah.
to. I struggle with. Sometimes I'm like, okay, listen to what they're saying. Like, let the love in. They're giving you appreciative, praise of some sorts. Cool, appreciate that. Cool, feel that, and then let that go. And in the same sense, I do that with any sort of negativity or anything that somebody's, if they're disliking what I'm doing, okay, let's take it in for a second, and then I'm gonna let it go because you don't want to punish the ego, but you also don't want to stroke the ego too much.
Yeah. I always appreciate the people that like give me that thing I don't want to hear. You have a couple people hopefully in your corner that like tell you, tell you the things that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear, right? And then you kind of, at least I start to like bucket people, whether it's like colleagues at work, like like one bucket I have, which I think a lot of people, like positive people, are like they'll never give you any criticism. It's just like great job, great job. And I bucket them in like the mom column, where like no matter what you do, your mom's like great job, honey,
Yeah.
you nailed it. And I think people just default to like, and I appreciate that positivity, but like I'm not getting better if you tell me I do great every time, right? So it's
Right.
how can I, so then when I do find someone that like, kind of gets up my ass or tells me what's going on, like Crystal, for instance, like part of the reason that we fell in love and we get along so well is like she doesn't sugarcoat shit. Like she gives it to me. But actually my boss at work right now is like one of those people where like I am in awe of her ability to like get shit done and the family that she's raising, and she's just a badass lady. But on top of that, like she kind of like she doesn't hold back, and I think she knows I can take it, and she has high expectations for me. So yeah, I have a couple people, but I think those are important people to identify and then bucket them and then like hold them close because they'll make you better.
Yeah, right. Being able to allow that in, I think there's a lot of fragility that I had to grow out of like not even allowing anybody to criticize me or critique what I'm doing. Like, no, I know best. Or there's even a side of me that on my artistic side where I'm like, you just don't understand what I'm trying to portray here. I'm too much of an
Yeah,
artist. I'm
yeah,
too much of a genius for your, some bullshit that
yeah,
I pull on myself. But yeah,
yeah,
no, allowing those opinions in and looking at like, dude, someone else with a different perspective offering you, their lens or their view on something that you're doing that you could possibly be then better at afterwards, then allow that in. That's a gift, man. That's a good thing.
for
Criticism
sure.
and critique, and just someone who is close enough to you to offer that. That's something that not a lot of people have, or they have boundaries up against. So where nobody's ever people are too afraid to say things to them in a lot of ways, and that's not a spot you want to be in.
Yeah, I get sometimes I like will cross a line too quickly too soon with someone, but like and it's not like this it's not something that I've kind of thought about. It's just kind of the way I operate, where
Mm,
if I say something inappropriate or I get a little silly or I bring up a, taboo subject, like I'm kind of like skipping the small talk
mm.
to get to like some good juicy stuff, right? And it's like
I
in
like
an
that about you,
effort
though.
to,
Just saying.
yeah, you kind of experienced that where like I'll hop skip, and jump like too many spaces, and I'll have to backtrack or be like, oh my, hey, hope I didn't make you feel
Right.
anyway. But like I think people that know me or are getting to know me, they realize that it's like, I just don't want to do like the small talk. I want to get to know you. I want to know how you feel about, important stuff.
Mm,
And also it gets like a good conversation that can like keep my interest going.
right.
But
You know,
I don't know.
I think too. I think often these days we are living a little bit with our foot in our mouth. And I think, and I don't like that. And
Nah.
I think we should say what we want to say and be unafraid and not. Yeah, I think it's a bit dangerous in a place of such beautiful freedom and free speech. And I know you say the word free speech now. It suddenly becomes this like conservative thing. Suddenly it's like in this
Yeah.
weird area of conversation. I don't mean it to be that, but the I think there's something about speaking freely, being yourself, asking what really comes up. Like if something kind of maybe personal comes up about this person you're talking about, and you just say it. And if it upset them, then you say, oh, well, look, I'm sorry, I totally didn't mean that. You deal with that repercussions. But I mean, in my experience, when you're just open with people and you say what's really on your mind, you talk about these things that are said to be taboo, you suddenly are able to connect and you're more open with this person on a level that the small talk would have never reached to in a 2 weeks of working side by side that person, It breaks
Right.
through the bullshit and you actually get to be yourself and they get to show who they really are as well. And I think that's good, man.
Yeah. And I've like, like you said, I've definitely put my foot in my mouth. I've made the
Same.
mistake too of like, if we're discussing something or I'm like trying to get a conversation going, like I've in the past come across as like too opinionated. But I said to you earlier that like I'm not married to any of my ideas. But for like a long time, like I came across as like married to my idea. But what I was really trying to do is like, this is what I think and feel. Like, what do you think and feel? Like,
Mm,
without being like, what do you think and feel? But like doing that, like, this is it. This is the truth as I see it. Like, I want 20 minutes later to be like, I'm wrong. You're right. Like,
mm,
wow. Like, I didn't think of it like that. But I'm like, just trying to get the conversation going or just trying to like get a rise out of you to like see where you're at and how you stand. And I've like definitely gotten better of like not coming across like as, maybe East Coast opinionated or like whatever it is, but like not so dead set and being more like just finding a better way to like organize the words so I'm not so set or coming across so set in my ways. Coming across as like, well, what do you think about this rather than like this is how it is. So I'm even like fine tuning that like, how I talk to people and interact with them. And I think that's kind of a byproduct of like where we are with like people putting their foot in their mouth. Where I've like I don't want to upset people or rock the boat or have people like leave the house party and be like, well, Will Andrews is a real piece of work. You know what I
mm.
mean? I want them to be like, that dude is wild. Like, I never thought we'd be talking about that thing, or I didn't know that. I want it to be like more happy and less like offensive. And again,
Mm.
I think that's like part of like being with a woman from the West Coast, like her kind of framing things for me that like, yo, like you're coming across super duper opinionated. And like, I don't think that that's your intention, but it's cause I know you. Like sometimes people don't know you and you need to be like that, but you need to do it in a more digestible way.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like you're generally a growth mindset person. Like you're someone who you're reciprocating to, so of course, Crystal, you're going to like listen to what she has to say, but is someone just saying, hey, you kind of came across this way, and you not being like, well, no, fuck them. They don't understand me. You saying, oh, I did? Okay, that's interesting. Like, I didn't mean to, and kind of relearning. Where do you get your growth mindset from? Have you always been like that?
I, I don't know. I think like I spent a lot of time when I was younger trying to be like I'm the toughest, coolest. I
Mm,
just spent too much time not being authentic and not being like true to myself and like goofy and loose and more like, I'm cool. And I really not that I regret anything from my younger days. It's all growth, but like I think when I look back at my life, I'm just sad for that little kid that he couldn't like be more of himself because he was so insecure that he wanted to like front all the time. He thought being the toughest, smart mouth kid was better than being sweet and nice. And like I just, I feel for that kid, you know what I mean? And nothing like happened to me and you know what I mean? But it was I didn't learn that lesson at like 15, 16, 17. Like, unfortunately, like I learned that lesson in like probably my early 20s. And I think for me that's kind of where it comes from, that I was like late to the party in my maturity, with that sort of stuff. So yeah, I guess that maybe that's why I'm so growth oriented still, is because it took me a long time to get to where I was then and even where I am now. It's like get busy living or get busy dying. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna keep on growing.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful thing, to where you can see the contrast of how you thought before and how you thought now. I think I find myself kind of in that same category of, there was plenty I learned. I was consistently learning, and I was very growth mindset in a lot of ways, but there was a lot of aspects of me and my personality that like I thought were super fucking awesome and didn't need to change even one bit. And then as you get older, you're like, it hurts because I was doing that, oh, that's why it hurts. You start to realize that your actions affect like your cognitive behavior, your actions affect what you think about years later, or, whatever it may be, so you kind of, because I've always had that growth mindset, but, I think there's part of it that's amplified, in kind of becoming quote unquote a man, I guess. There is this jump from Peter Pan boyhood to like, damn man, I gotta like, I need to be fucking responsible once in a while. I gotta, I'm a person in this society. I contribute to this collective unconscious. I'm responsible for my own future, my loved ones. I have a certain percentage of responsibility for my loved ones and all these things. And it's kind of this thing, once you take a look at, and once you face it and accept it, you can't look away. So you're kind of
right.
You're kind of forced onto that path of, now it's time to like grow up and be a big boy. But you can't have it any other way. You can't live as a boy until you're 75 years old. You're going to have a life of victim mentality.
Yeah, I had like a therapist. I got kicked off the track team my freshman year in college for fighting another runner. Anyway, and they made me go see like a therapist at school, and I was like, nothing's wrong with me. You know what I mean? Just that total like invincibility. And he was like, do you know what the word humility means? And I honestly think I was like, yeah, of course. And like, I'm like, I kind of know what it means, but I don't know what it means. And I should have just been honest. But like, again, I was fronting. So, and then I look up the word humility, and then, I don't think that landed then, but like, that's one of those things that has like, it's traveled with me.
Wow.
Just because, this guy was taught me a good lesson, that I didn't learn till years later. But maybe like because I was 18 at that time, so it probably took me a couple years. But that his asking me what the word humility meant, like, and that landed some years later. So I appreciate that therapist for kind of giving me that lesson.
Dude, it's very interesting moments that happen, especially in teenage years or early 20s or whatever, that you now realize are significant. Divergence of your path. They're significant pieces of who you are today, but like at the moment, or even a couple months after, like you kind of brushed it off, but it was actually kind of it was working, like without you knowing, it was in the back of your mind, yes, working on itself and working on you and changing you. And then later on, you're like, damn, that was actually kind of a profound thing. He made me look up humility, and I didn't know shit about it until I looked it up or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, I love that it's just like sitting there, like, like waiting, right? Just waiting and waiting, or like churning and working and growing, like, and more things are like, letting this thing grow in your brain until that bubble bursts, and you get all of it.
Water is getting in once in a while, a little bit more water, and then a little bit of sunlight leaks in, and it kind of grows, and you're not aware of it yet, but it's festering and it's growing. Dude, I remember when I was in high school, I had a couple moments like this, but it was before, I think, some sort of dance after a football game or something. I didn't play sports or anything. I was just a skateboarder, mainly would be a good way to describe my role in high school. But we had just, smoked a fat blunt out by by the field, came into the dance, and we completely reeked, and I was completely stoned out of my mind. And I remember the assistant principal pulled me to the side, and he was just giving me this whole thing about how I'm a leader, and whether I realize it or not, people look up to me and blah blah. Like, there's no way he didn't know that. I smelled like I put a nug up his nose. There's no way he wasn't unless he had never smoked weed. There's no way. But it stuck with me in that same way. Afterwards, I was like, oh, I just got away. I'm so high, bro, and he didn't even know. That's what it was right afterwards, and dap up your homies
Right.
and go have fun, and probably got drunk later, whatever. But it worked on me, and I feel like over time, it kind of, I was like, man, I can't ignore that. I can't ignore the fact that there's situations where I become the alpha male and people are mimicking me and they're looking up to me for answers. And suddenly if I notice it, suddenly, oh yeah, I realize that I am the one kind of leading the group and they are doing what I am suggesting, and that's a weird place to talk about, to talk, oh, I am the alpha and people listen to me. But there is moments, if you become aware, even in high school, that you are a leader of some certain sort of people, and whether you go in and out of it or not, people follow you, and they follow your lead and who you are and who you act. There's people who are watching, and I think it's something that probably, as a father, as parents, as you guys get older, it's something you're going to be ultimately. It's like the way that you are putting dishes away in the cupboard, like you're going to be aware, okay, there's now a 3-4-year-old watching the way I do this, and the way I talk to this person on speakerphone. There's someone listening to me, and they're learning how to talk to someone on the speakerphone. There's all these things that,
Dude, they're little sponges. Like they will imitate
yeah,
you. But yeah, dude, like the way you put away dishes, like something as simple as that, like all of a sudden changes just because you don't want to make a noise, or you don't, you know what I mean? You don't want to scare them, or any little thing that you do, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to teach her how to use a fork and a knife. So like, I need to like not have my fork, you know what I mean? And like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to do it the right way. Like, have manners. And it's a wild experience. You made me just think of something though. Like, I, I've kind of always felt like a leader in certain areas, but like as I've gotten older, I've noticed that like I'm not needed as a leader in this group of friends or in this situation. Like I'm a I'm a good as an assistant here. I'm good as a supporter.
oh,
Like
I like this.
um which is like a I for me, like again, like in my mid 20s, maybe a tough pill for me to swallow. Like whereas like I'm trying to like, run the situation, and it was like this moment calls for you to like sit back and like be commentary, or like, chill
Mm,
out, or like you're running security right now, keep an eye on everyone, you know what I mean? Like I think like, maybe not identifying as like leader or follower, like there's so many other jobs within a group. I think that's a good way, like healthy way to like think of it, but I also think it's like healthy to like identify like what that moment or that group of friends or that time calls for.
mm,
Because it might be your moment to be a leader. If you're excellent in, whatever, and you're in a situation, and your expertise comes in and we need you, like that's your time to step up and do it. But like just in general, like life, like sometimes you're just like an assistant, sometimes you're just a
yeah,
body, and it's like that's kind of an interesting way to think about things. But
yeah,
I think I don't ever want to like totally like generalize or categorize something, but like I do like putting things like in buckets for me, you know what I mean? Just like a healthy way for me to think about things. And I don't like go and hang out with this group of friends and like, all right, I'm running like security, like I'm like,
yeah,
Mac from Always Sunny, and I'm like, like I'm, like that, you know what I mean? But I do think it's like, it's interesting to like not need to be that leader, not need to be that alpha all the
mm,
time.
yeah. It puts yeah, there's situations that don't always need someone to stand out and be the leader. Like it's going to flow just beautifully without anybody really trying to rise above any ranks, even unconsciously. Um, and it also takes a little bit of stress off your shoulders. Like a lot of the times, part of my something I used to say all the time, which is so silly to me now, but I used to say I'm a control person. I like to be in control. I like to know. I like to, and when you're overly a control person, sometimes your friend groups, it's like you're overly planning things. Like I'm always the one starting the group message, and I'm always the one that's planning this, and I'm searching the Airbnbs that we're going to go to. And there is times for that, and that's all great. But there is a lot of times where we put a lot of undue pressure on ourselves, where our friends are like, dude, you don't have to do any, like, we're fine. We're going to show up. Just tell us the time. Or like, cool, how about I pick the restaurant this time? Like, you don't have to pick it every time, or whatever it is. There's this ability to not have to control everything, and just, it's going to be fine. Let's just do what we're going to do, fall into what we're going to fall into, and it's just going to be all right, man. It puts takes a lot of the stress off your shoulders.
100%. I have like family members that like they love hosting, but they're a terrible host because they are stressed out. And it's like you can feel it, like this untangible like aura and like whatever. Like you walk in the house, you're like, damn, they've been arguing
up this 2,000 square foot environment with
like,
your stress.
You guys have been arguing all day. Why are you doing this? Like, why'd you host? Like anyone else could have hosted. But it is funny, and it's like, I don't know. Again, it's like, like a wise person kind of learns from other people's mistakes. Because I love hosting, and I've even found myself like not putting it on my guests, but like internalizing, like, I got to get beer, I got to get ice, I got to get out, you know what I mean? Like, we got to get, or do we have enough food? Like, should we cook more? You know what I mean? Like that whole thing of like, yada, yada, your rat race. And then like, just, realizing like, all right, like whatever we don't have, we can get. Everyone's coming. It's more about like, everyone's coming over. Like, let's watch the game. Let's chill out. Like, they're going to meet Benny. Like, like whatever that, like that objective is, like, that's the thing, man. Like the rest of the stuff, like, chill out.
Man, I could feel your West Coast just coming through. Your West Coast
dude.
Will. Because it is that, if we're so obsessed with how's it going to go, we got to make sure it does this, and at this time we're going to do this, and the game's on at this time, and there's not enough bowls there's not enough chips in that bowl, and you just get stressed out. You miss, like, what are you doing, dude? You're hanging out with your friends,
right?
And you only have a limited amount of time with them.
Oh my God, yeah, dude.
Stop trying to. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I saw something about saw something, and it was like, how old are your parents? It was some conversation, a podcast, and it was like, I forget who it was, but it was like, how old are your parents? How many times a year do you see them? All right, well, if they're gonna live till they're 80, and you see them twice a year, and they're 50, that's 30 more, right? Like whatever the math is.
Yeah.
And like doing that, like that, I don't want to. I'm trying to like search for a good word, like not the evil math, but that like, that gut wrenching math. I think is helpful. Because I've even noticed that, like, having a daughter, and like, like I remember like saying to Crystal, like, maybe 3 or 4 months before she's born, like, I was like kind of being like, like insecure. And it wasn't being serious. I was like joking, but I was like, are my friends still gonna want to be friends with me? Like as we like lay in bed, and like I'm joking. She's like, yeah, shut up, dude. But like what it was is like, shut up, yeah. But like I know that like there's certain realities that are like existing, right? Like my friends don't have kids yet, and like we live in the city right now, and it's amazing. And I know one of my best friends is 10 blocks away, and my other friend is like 15 blocks away. Like, so we're close, like we see each other, but like I don't have the same freedom that I had before. Like I'm more on a schedule, and I got bigger fish to fry. So I'm not going to see them as much, but you start doing that like hardcore math, and then like, all right, like I want to get her to like a nice school district in the suburbs when she's ready for kindergarten. So like, if you start thinking things like that, like as long as you don't let it like ruin you, like it can, help you calculate the importance, again, like living in the moment, right? Like it can allow me to be like, I'm going to see my friends 150 more times. The 4 of us hang out, like, my crew, whatever, 100 times before I move out of the city. Well, like, that's then those 100 times like get a little bit more special. And I don't need to do anything differently than what I've been doing for my 20, 30-year friendships with some of these dudes. But like, yeah, there's like beauty in that, like gut wrenching hardcore math.
No, there definitely is. It reminds you to be a little bit more present, because you're like, well, I'm here, and now I'm accepting that it's not forever. Like I don't get to do this forever. I can't just call up for the rest of my life. This is not even available to me. These friendships that I have, or the ability to even live this close to them. And so it's not so much about like, how do I squeeze more juice from the fruit? It's, enjoy each bite. Like when you are with your friends, put your phone away. When you are with
Yeah.
your friends,
Right.
try to be at peace with your mind so you can really just listen to those, laugh with them and be with them and hug them and just be present. That's exactly what it is. I have this line I wrote a couple days ago is, hug your friends, they ain't free. And when you're with your mom, be present because she's doing her best and her best might be you. And it's essentially just like, it's something that I've learned from my own experience. I went through many years of like, my mom was the evil doer, and she's the reason why like my childhood and teenage years were so tough, and she just held all of it for me. And once I was finally able to forgive her, now our relationship is this friendship that I'm so present when I'm with her. Like I'm so like we just joke and we play, and I allow her to be completely her, and she allows me to be completely me. And there's no like, you're the mom that you never showed up and I'm this hurt child and you need to play that game of, even though I'm 30 and you're this old, like you have to, it's all this healing of, now all there's left is to just be present when I am with my mom. Like I don't know how many more times I'm gonna be with her. Maybe that's a numbered thing that I can calculate, but when I am
Yeah,
with
and
her.
I don't think you necessarily need to calculate it, but it's good to
Yeah, how
it's
many
good to
heartbeats do
know.
you have left? Think about
Yeah,
that right
no,
now,
right,
listener.
right, yeah, yeah. Did you guys ever talk about stuff?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had some pretty heavy conversations.
Yeah, good, good.
There was a lot of, I'm a pretty open book about that stuff too. There's, Shaylee, my ex that I was with for 10 years, she helped me with a lot of that. There was a lot of that, like, with as much as I tried to like hide that and keep Shaylee from that, because it's like, I'm not trying to have this girl see that my whole family is a disaster. And like,
Right,
I'm
right.
not trying to have her see me scream at my mom or anything on the phone. So she helped a lot with that. There was a lot of healing there. And then, yeah, my mom, a few years back, I kind of went through, I realized in every way possible, like the things that happened in my past are making me do things and causing me to think in certain ways that is causing me more harm. So I need to get to the root. I was very like root cause of my ails, like things that are hurting me and things about my personality that are shitty. Like they're from these things at the root. So let's get the root cause. And I went through, multiple years of just digging up as deep as I could any childhood trauma that I had, just fucking pulling it out by its roots. And so I went through, like I was a crazy nutcase for sure, for at least a few months. It was just a lot to dishevel. But my mom, through circumstance, my mom actually ended up moving in with me and Shaylee. And through that time, we were able to like have plenty. I'm down in the basement going through these like weird hypnosis and like childhood, past regression and all these weird shit. And I'd go upstairs and talk to my mom about what I just went through, or I would have some sort of thought that came through my childhood, and I'd ask my mom like, "Hey, did this actually happen?" And she'd be like, "Well, from what I remember, here's what happened." Or she actually had a bunch of letters that my father had written to her while he was like just super drugged out. But I was with him. If I remember correctly, I had basically read these letters because he would write these like, "I love you so much, and I'm so sorry I'm doing," like these just super vulnerable letters. And I was just a young buck. He would, I think, hand me these letters to hand to my mom. So I would, of course, read them. And so I was very much like, "Help dad, mom, you're evil. Like, you don't help. Like, look at, he's hurting." So anyway, I was able to like read these letters again, talk to my mom about them. This is just a few years ago. I was like 27, 26 or something. So, but yeah, I was able to like revisit all of this stuff from a place of, in my home, I'm in a safe place. Everything else is okay. I can re-dig it back up and like really look at it all right now. Like what's true, what actually happened, and what can I do now versus this story that is harming me and harming people I come across, because when you have unhealed stuff, it leaks out in ways that you're sometimes unconscious of, or you find ways to turn your eye away from. So, yeah, man, I definitely dug up a lot of the childhood trauma, and now me and my mother are in a place of a good spot, and I'm good with my dad too. Like we're friends too.
Yeah,
We're not. Yeah.
It's good to like. A lot of people don't get that opportunity, right? Like it's good
Mm.
to like have those heavy conversations or like to like do that self work because like you feel like lighter, you know what I mean? And again, like I
Mm.
remember we stopped by your house, and you're fine. But like then like seeing you in Austin, like you just seemed like just lighter, dude, like airier, like you weren't being weighed down. So
Mm.
whatever you're doing is working, man.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Lots of yoga. No.
Yeah, right. Yeah, lots of
Yeah.
yoga.
No. I think
Um,
I think you guys probably saw me at the tail end, but that's what I was doing a lot at that Castle Rock house, man. That was
yeah,
not just that. There was a lot of creation. There's a lot of artistry happening there. I was creating a lot and writing a lot. But I was getting everything that was harming me psychologically, just pulling at its root. And like it took me. I feel like it took me. Eckhart Tolle, he had like a spiritual awakening. Like his perception of who he is and is his connection to consciousness as a whole is just completely the way he perceives the world is different. And he had multiple years where he pretty much just, I guess, just sat on a park bench and just fucking sat there and just like tried to ground himself in reality. And I feel like I had kind of my own version of that in many ways because I dug so hard and I like faced all this shit and I had like these crazy experiences like through hypnosis and yoga and meditation and breath work and a lot of cannabis and I just I was like on this retreat, and it admittedly took me. I feel like I hung out with a lot of people during, and I talked to a lot of friends during, and there's sometimes I want to kind of go back and be like, dude, I wish that I could explain to you that I know that I'm always been a little bit weird, but when you hung out with me, I'm not always like that. I was,
yeah,
I had just
yeah.
experienced this or whatever, So I'm still pretty weird, but I'm a little bit more normal these days, I think.
Well, dude, and I think people realize that it's like you know people you ebbs and flows. Like you're
Ebbs and
gonna
flows.
be some version of yourself. You're not always gonna be perfect.
Mm.
Some people are more consistent than others, right? But some people like I know that I had a period of time with like my friends where I was like just heavy, like things in the past and mistakes that I made were weighing so heavy on me, and I couldn't like live in the present and enjoy myself because I was pissed off at myself for this mistake I made.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't work it all out, and it was like affecting like how I interacted with the world. But that's like that's when you have good friends that like rock out
Yeah.
with you no matter what, and like sometimes maybe you have to have a conversation, and then sometimes like I think as I've gotten older I realize like, am I having that conversation for myself? Like, does my friend need that conversation? And like,
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of realized like sometimes like I would feel like, okay, the right thing to do is like clear the air. And in most cases, it probably is like communication's healthy. But like, as you get to like know people and stuff, like sometimes like you're apologizing for yourself. Like you're not
Yeah.
apologizing like for the right reasons, or you're not having this conversation to clear the air for the other person or
Yeah.
for the right reasons. Like you're doing it to almost like absolve yourself of like this guilt or this mistake, or like, oh man, I was so weird that time, like
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and then like, I don't know, you just got like, sometimes like you have friends that like, it's water under the bridge and it doesn't even need to be
Yeah.
said, and that's like, that's cool. When you have a friendship like that. And either way, even if you bring it up and it's like, you look just not, sometimes not letting it affect you so greatly that it's like, should I like just do what feels right here? Your friend, has your back. You've been friends with them for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years,
Right.
whatever. Like, you know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah. You can come up with this huge apology, and like, bro, I'm so sorry about. And then their response would be like, bro, I literally, I haven't thought about it a single time
yeah,
since that
dude,
time.
I
So
don't know
I
what
love you anyway.
when,
Yeah,
yeah, what are you talking about? You're
yeah.
like, that time we got in a fist fight and I was a totally like, dude, I don't, we were drinking a lot
And
back
they're
then. I
like,
don't remember. You know what I
I was
mean?
like,
Like,
yeah, bro, I had like 8 Bud Lights too, so I'm not sure. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I thought that was my fault. That was your fault. Sick, man. Like,
yeah,
like,
well,
cool.
dude,
You've
that's
absolved me.
that explains like most male on male quarrels when it comes to friends. Is a lot of like I've had literally straight up fist fights where we fought two
Oh yeah,
times when I was with friends, and the next day we're like, bro, I'm so that was some shit. We hugged each other and
yeah,
we're best friends again. You know.
dude. And that shit makes you stronger, right? Like it's like any great relationship. Like you wade the waters of like some tough times and some like hairy situations, and you're better because of it. I do my best friend and I have gotten in multiple fist fights, and I'll never forget. I'm pretty sure the last one we got in, maybe second to last one we ever got in. I I was sitting on the stoop at the house, and he was getting back to the house after like a 4 or 5 mile run, and I didn't expect him to be back. We got into like a decent fist fight scuffle the night before, and our other roommate broke it up. And he comes around the corner, and we look at each other, and we just both have this shit-eating grins on our faces,
Dude.
and like like literally
Ah,
like words didn't even need to be
ah,
spoken. I actually just gave I gave the best man speech at his wedding in May of this year, and
Dude,
it was
beautiful.
awesome. That was a nerve wracking experience because I'm pretty good on my feet. I'm a
I feel like you'd
salesman,
be
you know, like
a killer at best man
yeah.
speech.
But dude, it was really tough.
Was that your first time
I
giving a best man speech?
ever, yeah, first time ever. And I don't, and that's the other thing too is like my brothers. I have two brothers. Michael's 13 years younger than me. Zach's like 8 years younger than me, and they're definitely like super duper close. You know, they're only like 4 or 5 years apart. And I'm so much older. So like I'm tight with him now, but like me and my brother Mike, like we didn't start getting tighter until he was like 17, 18, and I'm like 30 at that point. So we've kind of lived these different lives. And now I think we're really close, but like I don't know if I'll ever speak at my brother's thing because it's like, you know, they're kind of each other's best man, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah.
So my boy Vinny is like my rock. He's my dude. So and it was funny because like the weeks leading up or months leading up, I knew kind of the framework. I was like, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this. I want to like work through it like this. So I was kind of like formulating in my head, and that's kind of like my process. It's like up here until it's like on paper. And I knew because it was like friends from high school, friends from college, like I've been friends with Vinny since we were like 10, 11 years old. So like our lives are wrapped up in one another's. And I kept telling myself, like, dude, you know everyone. Like it's no big deal. You know everyone. And then like a week or two out, it was like, yo, you know everybody. Like it went from like the fact that I knew everyone went from like this calming factor to the fact that I knew everyone was like nerve wracking as
And
shit,
they
you know?
knew
Like it was
you.
just it,
Yeah.
right, it totally flipped. Um but no, I mean, I think I gave a solid like B plus A minus speech. Vinny told me it was like the best speech of the summer of all the weddings he went to and stuff like that. So
Oh,
that felt good. I had one moment where I just like forgot my transition, and it was like kind of like an emotional part, and I'm a pretty emotional dude, and I froze for a long time when you're probably like 5 to 10 seconds. I was like, I don't fuck, you know what I mean? Just like,
looking for it.
scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, like searching. And everyone thought like I was getting choked up. But what it did is I would have cried like a baby at this part, like during this transition. And it saved me from choking, from
Mm,
getting choked up. And then
yeah.
the only other, like, and again, this is just me being like super critical of myself. Um, I just like, I just kind of like rushed the end a little bit because I kind of like after that, I was like, yeah, I missed like one sentence. I wanted to say something about his fiance to kind of like wrap up like that part in like a
The
nice little
bow,
bow.
yeah.
But like, and honestly, it went great. I just am super critical of myself, but
Yeah.
I was definitely, it was the best. I think it was the best speech of that night, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was good. It was
Yeah.
good, but a nerve wracking experience because you only get one shot. You know what I mean? Like it's this.
Right.
There's no redos, right?
Yeah, and as much as it's natural and it's chill and it's like it's your best friend and you know everybody, it's also like you know everybody and it's your best friend and you want to make sure you do it right and you only get
Yep.
one opportunity and you know there's vomit on your sweater already, mom's spaghetti.
For
But
sure, for sure.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, my friends, like I think we hold each other to pretty high standards. So like, had I gone out there with a piece of paper, like I would have never been able to live it down. You know, like that's just like
Right, right.
the weddings we've been to, like our other friends that were there, like it just would have been like you can't you can't have a piece of
You're not gonna
paper, like
take
a
your notes out there, are you?
yeah, exactly, exactly. Like that's just the way my friends are. So it was like, all right, that's not, and I wouldn't have wanted to do that anyway. Like, I can memorize it was a 90 seconds to 2 minutes. So like my boy wanted it like short and sweet to the point. Um, but yeah, it was an
Yeah.
amazing experience. But I quite literally I was struggling to live in the moment that morning. You know, like we're getting pictures done, and I'm like enjoying myself, but I'm like
Ah,
doing that thing. You know,
yeah.
and I as soon as it was over, I was like I was thought I was gonna be able to be like cool. But even like all of a sudden, like a thing of doubt would creep in like an hour later.
Ah,
Like it kind of fucked me up a little bit. Which I'm glad I did it, and I like wanted to do it. It meant so much that he asked me, like, and it was a great honor. But it's just funny the months past that it's like I'm okay with it. But it was like I put this insane amount of pressure on myself.
right.
That like kind of like didn't allow me to like enjoy my best friend's wedding to like the highest degree because I
Yeah.
had to speak a little bit.
Isn't
So
that so funny?
I
That's a part of it though. That's
Yeah, no, it is. And I had a great time, like with all my friends, you know. But it's like I will always remember like this indescribable feeling of
Hmm.
like, you know, like because I've never felt that where like I'm on stage and I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm supposed to say
Man, it's
next.
it's almost a reminder from you to you of like this person, these people are they're seriously important to me. Like I do
Yeah,
actually care what, not just what they think, you know, not just that they think highly of me because I said the right words at a wedding, but like I really do want to communicate to them like this is so special for me to be here. You know, like
yes,
if only words really even could. Like you know, not just could I access them or could I put them in the right cadence and rhythm properly with the right you know tonality. It's like if there was even the words to express it, like I just, you know, you want to make sure these people know that you love them and this is important to you. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
why it
for
holds
sure.
on later on. You're like editing yourself. You're like, man, I should have said this or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, no, like I'm at peace with it. But it's funny,
Yeah.
like his fiance or his wife now was just like, wow, like Will's really nervous. And it's funny because like he told me that like, you know, weeks or months later, like Nikki was like, yeah, wow, Will's nervous. And I was like, dude, I didn't realize how nervous I was gonna be. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was funny. It
I,
was a great experience. I
I
wouldn't
will
trade it.
say since I mean I've DJ'd I mean probably 40 to 50 weddings and I've been to you know at least 10 to 15 just attending. Um, it's something I always say, or I always, if I don't have the opportunity to say it, if I'm not in a position, if I'm just an attendee, I'm not going to go give advice to the best man. But if I'm, you know, the DJ handing the mic to the best man, hey, you're going to start it off, or the bridesmaids or maid of honor, whatever. Like my little piece of advice is always, dude, just speak from the heart. Like, don't worry about trying to say the right things. Just you know this person probably as well as anybody in this room. Just show that like you know this
Yeah.
person, speak from the heart. And usually that's one place of wedding. I never loved DJing weddings. There's a few things about them that are strange to me, but that's one thing that I really love about DJing weddings is getting front row seats for the speech, like
Yeah.
the whether it's the best man or the maid of honor or even just like you know, someone's 12-year-old nephew said, yeah, hand me that mic. And he says something and he's kind of crying through it, but it's the most adorable thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't really say much, but you know what he's trying to say. And it's beautiful. You know, it's a good speech that's just someone speaking from their perspective or their heart that's great. I love
Yeah,
it.
it's the best. It is a tough thing to do though. Like I think I hear more like I because I feel like this summer is like the COVID makeup of weddings. You know what I mean? I think we've had 5 or 6 weddings this spring and summer.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like you hear more like rocky, tough speeches than you do really good ones. You know, um,
Yeah.
which again, my speech was at the start of the season. So at now here we are in September, and I feel good about it. Like
Yeah.
I've heard some tough best man speeches this summer and the maid of
Yours is
honor.
still
So
up in the ranks, though.
yeah, oh yeah. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good, dude.
Yeah.
But no, I can imagine like being a DJ. I like would be a weird predicament, because like everyone knows each other, right? Like outside of like the servers and this, but like you're kind of this intimate host where you're like more involved, but you don't really know anyone. It's kind of like
Mm.
a interesting predicament to be in.
Yeah, because it is this innately, it is innately sentimental because
Oh
everybody
yeah,
knows each other and it's a combining together of families. Like everybody in some way knows either the bride or the groom. Ideally, that's how a wedding is going to be, unless there's a couple, crashers or whatever. And so for me to interrupt their time and for me to say whatever you guys are talking about, pause for a second and look at me is already this like almost the audacity of this motherfucker.
right.
This is almost a religious spiritual experience of us intertwining these two families together or whatever. And this person's interesting. So I'm always like cognizant of being light with my word and trying to be very particular. There's a side of me that I can be goofy and funny, but I don't tap into that too much unless I know the bride and groom, or I know like if I've had a chance to like meet some of the parents or something. I'll crack a couple jokes, but there's a fine line. Like I have some friends who are DJs who like go pretty heavy with like the jokes on the mic, and I'm like, man, I don't know. So uncle's gonna punch you in the face. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
So
dude, it's like my sister's planning a wedding right now. She's getting married in November. Maybe she's like the sixth one we're going to. But it's like stressful. Like people are at their like, I don't want to say their best and their worst, but it's like, emotions are high. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's emotions are high. People are getting wasted. Like people are spending ungodly amounts of money. Like it's a little like powder keg sometimes,
Mm.
like a wedding. So when you have like I know when I go to a wedding and I love like obviously knowing everyone. I also love like being the plus one and not knowing anyone. When
Yeah.
you go to a wedding and it's like both sides, good vibes, and it's like you run into this guy in the bathroom, like, oh man, excuse me, and it's like old. Someone's like, oh yeah, but like when it's like good, it's really good, dude.
Yeah.
I love a good wedding.
Yeah, yeah, it's a thing of beauty. It's it's one of the traditions that our civilization has kept around, our culture has kept around. That is like there's some weirdness about it because we're kind of a post-religious community, and it is a religious ceremony. So I think we're still our generation is kind of finding our way around like how to find meaning and make meaning of like the vows we're saying in that sort of thing. But yeah, I think something I have learned myself with weddings. I'm probably not going to do too much more of them because, like I said, I don't love them. It's I
Yeah,
probably won't do too many more, but I do feel that I have gotten actually decently good these days at them, just by my demeanor, like by being chill, like by
yeah,
being relaxed. Like any questions I have, any like make sure all of my ducks are crazy in order before I even get to that venue for the rehearsal. And like my chill, calm demeanor of like, yeah, we got that, no problem, cool, I'll do that at this time. Yeah, I got you. That seriously rubs off. Like if, like I said, like if you're a host of a party and you're all stressed out and everybody comes over, like there's something about that energy that proliferates, and now it's kind of just anxiety all over. And if you're in a
hmm
place of, I'm a host a lot of the times as a DJ at a wedding especially, and my calm demeanor is just, I mean, you could sense it through the damn mic, through the airwaves. Like everything I say, the way in which I say it, how sweaty I am, how much I'm running around, or if I'm just walking elegantly to my next place. It really says a lot about like how things are going behind the scenes. And so the bride and groom don't have to be like, oh shit, are things going bad? Like they could just be present, and I could say, hey, it's 3:15. We're gonna head over here. Come on, you know. So
yeah.
that's the
Uh,
art of it is being calm in your profession in a lot of ways.
For sure. And so you just saying that I made a connection. So remember I was talking about like holding Betty and
Mm,
like giving off these feelings through my fingertips and my
mm,
hands, like this love and caring. Like I can't communicate with her verbally yet, right? So I'm like, we make a joke or I make a noise.
yeah.
So like what I just did is like what you're doing at a wedding and trying to give off these calm vibes. Like it's like almost like that's what I'm trying to do through my hands or through my demeanor or through my smile. um, but it is whether it's a baby or a bride and groom and or bridezilla in a stressful wedding situation, like you can truly like make waves in a healthy positive manner with just the way you conduct business, the way you handle things.
Mm.
um cool, thank you for making that explanation, because I just know what I'm doing with my babies. It's good, it's healthy.
Yeah, yeah. You're
But
communicating
so
without
we're
words.
yeah. So we're trying to like plan a wedding, and it's like it's bananas, like the whole like it's crazy. But what we've settled on, and this is like again like new age, not super religious. So we're basically inviting people to our elopement in Las Vegas, right?
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is like we're gonna fly out on like a Wednesday, Thursday. We're gonna do like cool pictures in the desert, her in her dress, me in a badass suit.
See.
My sister's fiance, future husband, he's a wedding photographer. He's awesome. So they're gonna fly out early. Lana, like Crystal's sister, is gonna fly out a little early. Like we're trying to figure out Benny, like whether she flies with the parents or whatever, but fly out there, get some badass pictures, get like an Elvis like drive through little wedding chapel like ceremony thing. Really simple, kind of silly, like play into the Vegasness of it,
Love it.
and then Friday do like a family happy hour kind of like catering, simple party, like that's where we'll kind of say our vows. Thank you for making the trek out here.
Mm.
Like, kind of pose it as like, you need a getaway, come to Vegas, celebrate with us on Friday night. And then Saturday, we're going to get like cabanas and bottles and spend too much money at like a pool party
Yes.
and invite all of our friends. and that'll be like, I guess we're asking a lot because it's like a multiple day, like, almost like an Indian style wedding. But
Yeah.
dude, it's going to be a fraction of the price.
That's perfect.
It's going
Yeah.
to be so laid back and like fun.
Hmm.
And it was actually Crystal's idea because we've been like looking at these venues and we're looking at like $45,000 for like a cheap wedding, or like
Oh, easily.
60,000. Yeah, dude, and that's like cheap, cheap, cheap.
When you
So
guys are on the East
she
Coast and
actually,
trying to get her to like, oh, what friends do I choose to try to fly over for, from the West Coast? And just, dude, it just becomes like, you probably got to a place where like, do we have two weddings, one for the West Coast, one for the East?
dude, totally.
Like,
And then it was like, let's not even like do it. Like, let's just go to the courthouse, get married. Like, let's not even spend the money and whatever. Let's not. Can you still see me? Sorry,
yeah,
my phone. But yeah, we were like, we went through that, all those emotions of like, let's not do this. But like, I wanted to do something. I think
mhm,
there's something in that tradition, something that I wanted to do. Like, I want to say some vows in front of our
mhm,
friends and family of like my love for this woman. I think she deserves that, and I think it's something that we want to do. I think she'll actually struggle to find her words more than me, but I'm
mhm.
so interested to see what she would possibly say.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
I,
that's I don't know. That's our 2022, kind of had the baby. Didn't do things in a traditional sense, but it's like, like, come elope with us, get a weekend getaway. Friday night we're gonna have a little happy hour thing, and then Saturday, get wasted pool party.
yeah, that sounds amazing. That sounds way fun. I think that's
Yeah,
the best idea.
and also like Vegas makes it easy for her like West Coast family, and like from Philly to Vegas, like you can still get a cheap flight, like, so there's always flights going to Vegas. So um yeah, and we're gonna have to figure out like the baby and families. Like, we might just stick like her mom, maybe my parents, like, in a sick Airbnb, and kind of make that like home base for like everything.
Smart. Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna figure out all those like little details. But I kind of like I like the planning and the struggle of the
Yeah.
whole organization. So
Man, yeah, I really like that. I think that's not only a good idea, but what you said about vows, like kind of wanting to, set some vows and say them. I think there is. I thought about vows a lot actually. I had before Shaylee and I split, like a few months before, I had proposed, and so I was thinking a lot about like wedding, because weddings, I'm very aware, like, there's no magic that happens without the participants. It's not that just because you say these words there's like magical laws of the universe right up there with gravity that make these things perfect, like, oh, through sickness and health, that's just going to happen, I don't have to try. It's very much I think I kind of like, as I got older, and as I was going to propose, or as I proposed, and as I was like trying to think of what I would say in my own vows, I started really thinking of the power of, the spoken word. What we say is spells. And as much as I'm a rambler and stumble over my words, I think that there's power in like writing something that's very true that you can read back and be like, I can do that. And that would be really hard to do. That would be probably the hardest thing I would ever do, is devote to these things on this piece of paper till the day I die. But I'm willing to do that. And I would love to
yeah,
do that. I think you can create your own magic in writing your own vows, or even not even just writing them, but like reading other vows and seeing like, what, through sickness and health and all these other things, I'm going to do that. Like, in the other person making that agreement too. I mean, there really is some super powerful magic of sorts that can arise out of that. And you guys could really get through so much more if you really remember in each moment that when it gets hard, of your vows. Like, what did I agree to? Because when you could reach back into your vows later on in life in your marriage when things are hard, then you could say, it gives you an answer for that problem. Like, yes, it's tough, but I have to keep going because I agreed to this, or whatever it is. I think there's a lot of power in vows, man. I think it's really.
yeah, and I think that's why personally, like, I would like want to write mine myself, just because I think they'll hold more water for me. It'll
Mm,
like, if I do spend the time designing, that collection of words to say in sickness and in health, right? To like capture that in my own brain and mind and heart and body and soul. Like, I think it's for me just means something, means a little bit more, rather than kind of just repeating that thing. Like, if I can somehow not completely fall apart emotionally and like communicate this to like her, and any of our loved ones that wanted to be there and could be there, and also like the loved ones from generations before that are no longer with us, right? Like if
Mm.
you can tie in the magic of life and death, and till death do you part, like
Mm.
I think you're not only
Yeah.
honoring that person, but you're honoring like your family and the union of these two families. Like it's
Yeah,
cool.
that's like the thread of embodiment, that's like really trying to find that way. It's not just the words themselves. It's not just you say these and they magically open up abracadabra, the doors open and you are granted access. It's like, how can I really embody what's being said here? Like the words themselves aren't powerful, but me saying them in truth is so very powerful,
Right.
and also I'll say, if you do completely emotionally break down and start crying during your vows, you're loved too. That's okay too.
Yeah,
You're,
yeah,
you're
for
in a
sure,
place
for
where
sure.
it's okay to do that.
Definitely, definitely. Nah, yeah, I can't. It's funny, like I was planning on asking Crystal to marry me. And then, I was like kind of not dragging my feet with the ring, but like, it's a whole thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of like, taking my time. And I knew that's what I wanted, but I was like, I don't think she's in a rush. I'm not in a crazy rush. And then we found out that we were pregnant. And that was a wild experience because she was like, it was like a Friday, and she was like, "Hey, I feel like different." And I was like, "Really?" She's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yeah, I think." So we bought a pregnancy test, and it was like a Friday night, and I was like, "Can I just get one more weekend?" Like, just so immature, right? Like, just can I? Could I just be? Can I just not deal with the reality for one more weekend? And again, like, I think that's like me knowing myself, right? Just like
Yeah, that's real,
let
man.
me just let me be a kid again, right? Like let
Yeah.
me just be a kid for one more weekend. And then it was like that Monday or Tuesday of that following week. Um, I think I was dropping her off at work, so we were both home in the morning, like doing breakfast. And she was like, "Oh my god, we got the pregnancy test." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." She peed on the stick, and then dude, like an hour and a half went by. Like we both completely forgot about it. And then she was like, "Oh my god, let's go check it out." We like ran to the back bathroom. I was pregnant, and we both started like laughing and giggling with like no plan or no
Beautiful.
like you know what I mean. Like we knew we could do it, like but it was like this. We were not expecting this
Yeah,
thing,
here we are.
and here we are. So then I was like, okay, in my head, I was like, all right, the engagement's on hold, right? Like let's attack this challenge and do the baby thing. Um, and then at some point, like over the summer into like early fall, I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know why these two things are not independent of one another, you know? And I know Crystal didn't like need me to like, hey, will you be my wife one day? Like,
Sure.
but I just felt like it kind of said some things that I couldn't, not that I couldn't say it. I'm pretty good with
Mm.
like discussing my feelings and stuff, but I felt like it wasn't other people's impression of her being a pregnant woman, not wearing a ring, like you know what I mean. But like all those things, like those, I don't. We don't care what
Yeah.
other people think
Yeah, it
of
turned
like
up the
whatever.
volume on that a little bit more, the
Right, right. And it's just like you know what, like I was feeling this way beforehand, and now I'm not all of a sudden not feeling this way. I'm feeling this way even more. Like I'm feeling this is going to be the greatest challenge ever, but it's a challenge that I want to do with you, and like I want you to be my wife, but like I this isn't on hold anymore, sort of. You know what I mean? And I like she didn't need it, but I like got back to like getting the ring and designing it and doing that whole thing. And then it was really cool because we have these pictures. Again, my sister's fiance, I had them kind of like they met me one morning, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna pop the question here tomorrow morning. Like, what do you think? You think you guys can be like hiding and like get the moment like when it happens?" And they did, and it was amazing. But like, she's got this like little baby bump, and we're in like in sweatpants, getting like coffee in the morning, and it was just like a really beautiful moment.
mm.
But um, yeah, it was just funny kind of the way the timelines went down and how I was like, all right, that's on hold. Like, let me attack that. And it kind of helped me understand myself that I do like to like, all right, like, let me focus on this. Like, and life's not like that.
Mm.
So it's interesting. So we've engaged for, a while now since like last November. It'll be engagement for a year in November. And I think like, hopefully sometime early summer of next year, we'll be looking to lock in our wedding date and everything.
Yeah. Amazing. It's so cool how it all falls into place, and it sounds like
Yeah,
that moment you just mentioned, like that she had a little baby bump, and it sounds like that
yeah,
might have been a day or a moment where you're like, damn, this is all right,
yeah. What other people that had gotten engaged, like, dude, you black out, and like, and I don't know if that was your experience or whatever, but like, I truly like, I grabbed her hand and I started going down. I was like, hey, I love you, right? And she was like, what did I do? Like, she thought she like, so it didn't get off to like the hottest start, but then I just like got down on one knee and I opened up this ring. And I don't know, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I told her I loved her and like told her
yeah.
that I wanted to,
You
be
probably
with
don't
her. And
remember
then
exactly what you said though, huh?
no idea, dude.
Yeah, I don't remember
No
what I said
clue.
either.
And then, we just were just both crying. And then like my sister and her fiance got right up next to us and I could hear the shudder of the camera and I knew they were there, right? And Bella's with us, like our little dog. She's like
Yeah, yeah.
jumping and like they're like right next to them. I'm like look who it is. And like she looks and she's like surprised that they're there and she's just like weeping. And it was like a beautiful
Oh,
moment. And then she was like, are we getting coffees? And I'm like, no, like all of your friends are at our house. And then like my family and her friends were like are already at our house with like brunch. So they had like
that's so
set
cool.
everything up and like mimosas and
It
like,
would have been an awkward
whatever.
brunch if she said no.
Yeah, would have. I was like, all right, well, you can go home and tell everyone. I'm gonna find an open bar at 9 a.m.
Yeah, she's like, well, I just need some time alone to think about it. Well, all of our family and friends are at the house, so
Yeah, yeah. Will you tell my parents? They're at your house.
yeah,
Uh,
it's a beautiful thing, man. It really is cool to see. Like I said, we're at this time where traditions they're just looked at differently, and even
mhm.
things like marriage. I think we just think about things differently than our parents' age. So it's very cool to hear, you know, good friends of mine and people my age and like-minded individuals be able to still find like beauty in this thing that sometimes feels a little bit different than us. It feels like, it's kind of like out of our, it's not like weddings don't feel like us in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways they can. In a lot of ways, like it's still cool clearly there's a lot of beauty and a lot of like specialness that you guys are very much tapping into. It's all still there, maybe it's a little bit
Yeah,
different,
for
but it's still
sure.
there.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. It's like one of my dad's buddies was just like, you made an honest woman out of her. Good job. You know what I mean? It was like, and I didn't say like, well, that's not why I did it. You know what I
Yeah, yeah.
mean? But like, he was like proud of me that I popped the question because I got her pregnant. You know what I mean? It was like such like an ass backwards way of thinking about it. Like that's not how I was thinking about it, but like, it was like that
Sure.
old way of thinking with the traditions that are supposed to be done, properly. And like, I was just, I was just listening to my body. You know what I mean? I was listening to the situation. I was like vibing with Crystal and like, this life we're building together. It was like, you know what? Like, why am I treating these like the engagement and the baby as like this one needs to be done? Now that
Mm.
this has happened, I gotta hold off on this. Like, no, dude, like you were doing that, you wanted to do that, like do that, like it's good, like it'll be good, and just like
Yeah.
listening to like that intuition. Um, but
I,
yeah,
I think I had asked you guys when you were in Austin, but do you have like a 5, 10, 20 year kind of idea plan? Are you guys like
Ye-
going to
dude,
get a
it's
cabin in
funny
the
you
woods
ask.
somewhere, or what do you?
Yeah, so I it's not obviously like nothing set in stone.
Yeah.
But I wrote down like the years, you know what I mean? I went across and did like 22, 23. I did 5 years and just like wrote them across. And I think I did 15 or 20 years. And then I just wrote in each year, like, what I want to achieve for the family. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, we have a small row home in Philly that I'd like to hold on. My plan is to like hold on to the row home in Philly, rent it out eventually, and then get a house in the burbs where we can like raise Bennett, good school district.
Mm.
Growing up, I never thought I'd go back to Jersey. Taxes are crazy, but there's really good public schools. I always thought I'd go on the other side of Philadelphia, like Montgomery County, Chester County, like the counties outside of Philly on the west side. Um, but like now, like I think we'll end up in Jersey. Like
Mm.
my family's close. Crystal's mom's actually moving to Jersey. Um, Now that Crystal's sister's living in Philly, like her mom's out there with Lily, and like they're making the move to come over,
I'm glad.
which
Yeah,
is
that's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually it's amazing. It's bananas, and I'm so proud of her mom
Yeah,
for
that's
doing it
very
for a
cool. Yeah,
million
that's a
reasons.
big. Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah. So anyway, it's like I just think we're gonna end up in Jersey, close to my parents, close to her mom. So like that's like in the 5 year plan, like that's probably like the biggest thing is like, earn enough, save enough so we can purchase a reasonable, house in a good school district and still keep the current house. So hopefully I don't have to sell this to buy the new one. That's like the 5 year plan. And then it's like honestly, like it's like, get the wedding done, go on a honeymoon, places we want to see or visit. And then like, I don't know what else is on there. It's kind of just like travel, like achievement, work. I applied for this promotion at the job. And I haven't been here that long. I was kind of like, it was really good of the company to give me the freedom and the confidence to like apply for this job. But I was like, fuck it, I'm going to apply for it. And I interviewed well. But they gave it to someone else that had more tenure. That like it made total sense to me. And I kind of agreed with the situation. But I know that they're going to it's a young company that we're growing. So I'd like to, get one of those jobs in the next 5 years. Yeah, for sure. And I would be great for the role as well. So that's like something else that's in my 5 year plan.
Yeah.
And then, I can't go ahead. Sorry.
No, you could keep going.
I was just going to say, I can't wait to like talk to my daughter and find out what she wants to do. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's like go to the zoo in 2024, And right. I don't really like supporting zoos because they're fucked up. They're like, jails for animals, but if she wants to go check it out, like I want to go there with her. So
right. Yeah. This whole plan is based off of like, it's going to obviously change up as she develops a personality and like, you're planning on what you and Crystal want, but then it's going to be like what does Bennett want, So that's the beauty of it. But I do think that it's very wise and very smart of you to have some sort of outline of your next 5 years or 10 years, whatever it is, because it's something that I kind of have ups and downs with because I kind of go through these phases of I'm at this, just lift your legs up and let the river float you down. I have a lot of those things where I'm just like, I don't really know what my plan is. I don't really know what I'm trying to achieve here, but I'm just, my ears and eyes my ears and eyes are open to opportunities. So I don't really know exactly where I'm going to go, but I'm floating around and trusting the world, trusting the universe as it is. But there's also something I discover. I think there's seasons. I think there is times to float around. And then I think there's times to where like, I'm pretty sturdy with where I'm at. So like, let's send some direction towards it. What's the saying? The ship with no direction or the sailboat with no direction favors no wind, or something like that. Basically like whatever wind you're trying to catch doesn't matter if you don't even know whether you're trying to go north, south, east, or west. So there is some beauty in at least kind of having an outline of, I want to achieve these things. Let's see where the wind can take us.
Yeah. What is it? It's like success is where like opportunity and preparation meet, right? Or like something like that, right?
Yeah,
like you have to go mix it up. You have to like, again, that's why I think like my advice early on is like, know who you are, right? Like know who you are and what you like. And as soon as you do that, which is not an easy task, but as soon as you better understand yourself, you can start to figure out like what your plan is because you know what you want or what you like, and life will throw you a million curveballs. But if you at least like have some stuff that you are interested in or like to do, or what makes you happy and know who you are, then you can at least put together a rough outline,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a powerful tool is know who you are, know thyself.
I think that's my like biggest advice. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get to a power source here, so I apologize.
Oh yeah, but, your AirPods probably dying out.
Yeah, but we're good to go.
We're getting fairly up there. I was actually going to ask you, basically advice to your younger self. Like if you had opportunity to open a window of you at this age, you experiencing what you're going through now, to kind of just like have a conversation with your younger self. Maybe he's 16, maybe he's 18, like, and he actually listens and might reciprocate that advice. Like, what do you think he would say?
I would, man, that's tough.
What do you think he would say, rather?
Something like you're not as hot shit as you think you are. You know what I mean? Like, dude,
sit down.
Dude, you're an insecure, like little, moron, right? Like you think you got it all figured out. You don't. And no one, that's the crazy, like you think you got it all figured out. You don't, but like really nobody has it all figured out, right?
So
nobody does, right?
Yeah.
right. So that's cool, but stop acting like you do,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Because when you can chill out and like, accept it, accept who
Yeah.
you are, you're a much better human,
Yeah. If you know everything, you've got nothing left to learn. What a
Right,
terrible
right.
spot to put yourself in.
Dude, can you imagine? Can you
I know
imagine
everything.
like just yeah, right? Like
Whatever
no
any
thanks.
books I read, they cannot change me. I know it.
Yeah, dude. Well, it was nice to hear you talk about that guy that sat on the bench for 2 years. Who was that? What was that gentleman's
Oh,
name?
Eckhart Tolle.
Y-
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
he.
I don't know who that
Oh,
is.
have you never heard of him? So yeah,
No.
he's a spiritual teacher. He teaches very. He's a non-dualism teacher.
Okay.
So kind of. I mean, you can kind of say Buddhism ish, a little bit of Hinduism. His is kind of like the nature of the self. It's kind of a lot of core teachings. Have you read much Alan Watts? Um,
No, no.
as another philosopher, but he's not so much spiritual. But yeah, I'm kind of the core teaching of Eckhart Tolle is like seeing through the illusion of the self. Like you're not a separate self. Like we have an ego, but we're a little bit of a soul having a human experience, and vice versa in many ways. But the way he came to it though, if I recall correctly, he was committing suicide. So he had a accidental he was like trying to kill himself, but he didn't fully die. And it basically like killed his ego. So he had a near death experience, an NDE, if you ever heard of people talk about those. And
Yeah.
it woke him up to the trueness of himself. Like the things that, the people we have read, Jesus Christ and the Buddha and, all these other enlightened beings that we hear through all these stories, they are basically humans that have had an experience that allows them to see through on like a consistent all the time level the illusion of the self. And so they're basically residing in this area of knowing they're sitting in this area of consciousness. It's kind of the same place we're all trying to get through. If you hear people talk about enlightenment, I want to become enlightened. They are
Yeah.
kind of the thing that people who are wanting to be enlightened get to, or want to get to. There really is no arrival, and it's based off of your own karmic predicament. You will or you will not
Right.
reach these levels of samadhi or not. But yeah, so Eckhart Tolle, he's now a spiritual teacher. He sits on stages. If you've never listened to him, he's very frustrating to listen to because he talks the self is an illusion. Like he speaks very like that. It's frustrating, but it's also he says things that like they're he speaks in koans. Which have you heard of koans?
Yeah.
Koans, like Zen
Yeah.
koans. He speaks a
Uh,
lot in those things, and they're kind of if you listen without over intellectualizing what he's speaking about, they bring you to these places that koans are trying to allow you to see. So he has a book called Eckhart Tolle, Be Here Now. I think it's Be Here Now, but I would recommend
okay.
that book. That's great for anybody to
Okay.
read. Be Here Now.
I
Maybe
will. I
it's
will
Be
check it
Here.
out. Do some research.
Maybe it's
But yeah,
not
I
Be
just
Here
like.
Now.
I'll look it up. I'll find it.
His top book.
I just like yeah, I like the idea of you talking about like your like sitting on the bench, right? Like what that meant. Him sitting on the bench for 2 years, right? And like
Mm-hmm.
your time at the house in Castle Rock, like
Mm-hmm.
sitting on the bench, right? Metaphorically. And I started to think about like my time in like Florida, like sitting on the bench, like getting my shit together, like understanding myself in the world and like what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like another time in my life, and maybe it's retirement, maybe it's old age, but I would like to like sit on the bench metaphorically for a little while and like as like a more complete person, right? Like not striving so hard for like change and growth and to fix,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to like just sit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be nice to like see what sort of epiphany and like life's lessons come with like just sitting and listening and watching.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they write about the so like in the Eleusinian mysteries, they basically write about this rite of passage that a lot of young people would go through back in like the Roman days, and essentially they would say if you die before you die, when you die you will not die. And it's kind of this experience you can have, and you're sitting on the bench is kind of like coming to some sort of bridging the gap between like seeing through the illusion of who you thought yourself to be. But if you die before you die, it's the ego that dies, but the awareness, the observer that we all are, this constant, observes the dissolution of this separate ego. And so there's things that you can sit in that for a lot of times. Like you said, like when you're older, it'd be nice to just kind of like really read a lot of these books and just, or, just sit there and experience that, like a really experience stillness, because it kind of is the core of what we are as human beings. But it's so elusive is the perfect word for it. Just like the illusory self, this silence that persists is also very elusive and hard for us to. There's too much going on all the time, and our stories are exacerbating our every movement and why we do things, and we're always thinking, and we're identifying with thoughts and all these things. That the silence, the observer, the constant awareness that is there throughout all of those things, the thing that sees all of that observes everything that happens, you can get in tune with that. You can sit with that where it's just that. And that's
that's a place I'd like
afterwards.
Yeah. Well, you're still sitting on a bench, right? Like even if you're laying in the grass under a tree and just meditating, like you could, like the grass is there, the tree's there, like that stuff can fade away, and you can go to that place. But like I'd like to spend some more time there. I think, I think so. Like that's why I'm a fan of like psychedelics. Like
yes.
that death of the death, because then will you say it again, the Roman
if you die before you die, when you die you will not die.
Right yeah. Like that's an acid trip to me.
Have you done, and we can edit this if you wouldn't like to talk about it, have you done psychedelics at all?
Yeah, for sure. Like obviously not much recently, but like definitely in my early days. I experimented a little bit in college, and nothing crazy. Like I think it's super duper healthy to have that ego death, and to kind of like, I know it, like I feel like completely connected. For me they're like nature daytime. Obviously everyone has like their own experiences, but they're the best.
Yeah, they're the best. That's the best
description. They're the best.
Yeah.
It's for me, I know, like I've heard some people kind of like discuss them and like kind of successfully capture some of those things. I've never really been able to do that. But yeah, there's like a childlike wonderment that rushes over me in a trip that it's the best, I guess.
I would very much like to. I mean, how you talked about when you're older, it'd be nice to just sit on the bench, so to say. It would be nice to just you're 60 years old and you just take 5 years and just do mushrooms every day. Just,
yeah, dude.
Become a shrub for a bit.
Dude, I would love to be a turnip and a shrub for a little while. It'd be sick. Just sit there. No, like mushrooms and hiking and trying to see it all through a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean
it's crazy. I think California or San Francisco yesterday just decriminalized mushrooms.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw San Francisco earlier this week.
See, that's a step in the right direction. I love everything.
I mean, it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. I am a little bit afraid of the capitalistic arm that's like reaching its way right in through the middle of all of these things, but it's just inevitable. Capitalism eats everything. But I do.
Yeah, but if you look what's happened with like marijuana, right? Like when we were kids, you had to buy a bag and you had to sneak around, and now like you go to the store and you can like. You can literally tell them, like, even if you're a novice smoker, you can be like, hey, I have anxiety, but I don't want to be too psychoactive, or like you can tell them what you're looking for, and then they can help.
That's part.
So like, and that's like that is the capitalist arm, right? That's like one of the byproducts of like real money getting into marijuana. Which I'm sure there was growers back in the day that you could have done that, but like me on the East Coast, like we never had the availability. So just now, like in the last few years where you can legally, go buy weed. It's crazy. So I'm hoping, like, despite, the pitfalls of capitalism, I'm hoping like the mushrooms can still, like, dude, my buddy got these mushrooms and like they're in a beautiful packaging, and it like has the suggested dosage for a microdose. And then if you want to like kind of wow out a little bit, it tells you. And then if you want to like see God, it gives you like another dosage. So like that sort of stuff. Like when we were kids, like you eat mushrooms out of a bag, right? You like, oh, let me do like a couple stems, couple caps, and like
you have
hope
no idea
everything
what you're
goes
getting
well.
into.
Yeah, dude.
You could see
Which
God,
that
you
was
could
the
become
exciting
God,
part.
you could see some visuals. Like
Yes.
your night's going to be very different based off of your experience, though.
Dude, I one time my buddy had a trash bag, like just a giant bag of them. And I pulled out the biggest cap ever in front of like again like young Will, like trying to like be somebody.
Yeah.
Like I pulled out this gigantic cap and stem, and like 9 of my friends are like smoking blunts and like looking at me, and I'm like, I ate the whole thing.
Dude.
And then like I was like sweating and losing my shit for the next like I don't remember exactly the time frame, but like for an hour I was like really really like lost in the sauce, and had like I didn't need that, you know what I mean? Like and maybe I did, like maybe some good came out of it.
Man,
but yeah, like
the hilarity of you saying you taking a huge mushroom caps because you want to be somebody, like, it's so funny just because it's like this egoless experience in many ways.
Yeah, right.
But I think you're right. I think the beauty that comes with a lot of this, like, the new psychedelic renaissance that we're experiencing is we now are knowledgeable about it. Like you would now know, and you would recommend to other people, like, hey, if you have an opportunity to have a sack full of mushrooms and you're not in a place where, like, if you're just at a party where everybody's drinking and hanging out, maybe it's not the best place to take mushrooms. Set and setting is so big with a lot of these things. Even weed, even cannabis, even edibles. People, we have enough information and knowledge about it that we can not only put that on the packaging that we're selling these things, but it could just be another known thing in the zeitgeist of doing psychedelics. It's like you're not going to let your friend take 5 grams of mushroom before he goes to the the Top Gun movie premiere because he's going to fucking freak out. You're like, bro, right, take 5 grams, we're going to do it at my place, and we're going to get pillows, and we're going to wash each other's hands, and we're going to listen to this album, and like whatever hippie shit, you plan that out because you know exactly the experience that's going to happen when you take this amount.
Right. No, and dude, you said it, set and setting. Like it is, that's the key to like any psychedelic experience.
Yeah. I mean, even weed, I'll say, I repeat that. I'm a pretty heavy cannabis user to this day still, but when I was going through all that stuff in Castle Rock in Washington, where I was going through, like I said, digging up all this childhood trauma and stuff, I was smoking a lot, and I think that it did allow doors to be open that couldn't have been opened without it. But like, again, it's a tool. People call it plant medicine, which is kind of, people roll their eyes at calling psychedelics or LSD or any of that stuff plant medicine. Sure, there is some eye rolling, but it really is. I think it's worth treating like a medicine. Like you could really unlock some places in your psyche or beyond your psyche, even rather, with these tools. But it's a medicine. You got to be careful.
Yeah, definitely. I every time I have like a really tripping experience, I'll have a 10-minute period where I want to like call my parents and tell them I love them. And then like it breaks my heart because they're kind of from the generation of like, like don't do drugs. Like if you eat mushrooms, like you jump out a window. And I gave my dad that book, the Michael Pollan, How to Change Your Mind. Have you read that?
I haven't read it, but I know it exists.
Yeah, there's like a Netflix there's like a Netflix show, I think, that's like kind of grasped like the book in a Netflix show.
I think.
But yeah, I gave it to him, and I don't think he ever finished it, but I think it started to kind of change his mind a little bit. Right, like just like getting him to kind of wrap his head around, like it's a tool, right? It's not this like naughty, like don't do this thing or you're gonna be forever changed, like, and that can happen. But that's always like the unknown's always been like the fun part. Like that's always gotten me going. Right. Who knows what's gonna happen. We don't have schizophrenia in our family, so like I kind of felt confident the first couple times. Like, all right, like I'm not gonna break. Like I'm not gonna, like, I might feel like I'm never going back. But that's like a normal feeling, like you're gonna go back to normal.
Yeah. Joe Rogan has said with edibles, he's talked about like you feel like you're gonna die, but you're not gonna die. You feel like you're gonna die, but you're not.
Well, dude, he always says he loves them on planes, And
Oh my
I
God,
like,
dude, that sounds
I'll
terrible.
like, yeah, right. So I
That's
like, if
terrible.
I have a long flight, I'll smoke a little bit before, like, and just, pass out and, have my, west east to west coast flight and wake up and be like, oh, it was great. Just like kind of mellow me out. But I've tried edibles on planes, and that's like, I don't sleep. I don't enjoy myself. Like, to me, like, eating is like, it's a different drug.
Yeah, well, so it's actually 5 times more psychoactive. It actually kind of creates a different, not only experience, but kind of creates a different drugs. I think because when it passes through your liver, it releases, or was it release 5-dimexyl? I don't fucking know. I heard someone else talk about it,
Yeah,
but it is
no,
a different
definitely.
drugs, and it's 5 times more psychoactive. I actually am not affected by edibles. I don't have the gut
You're one of
biome.
those. You're
Yeah,
one
so
of
I can
those
just take
guys.
a ton. Although I never have taken like, all right, bro, I'm taking 100 milligrams. Let's go to the moon. Like I have never done
Oh,
that. So like,
dude, we were down the beach, like, I guess last summer or the summer before, one of the holiday weekends. We were at one of
yeah.
Crystal's friends' family's house, and we were going out on the boats all day. And somebody was like, "Yo, do you want an edible?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they handed me one gummy worm, and I was like, "What is it? At most 25 milligrams."
At
So I
most.
pop it in, I'm chewing it, and then like someone comes out, and I'm like, "Yo, how much were these?" They were like, like 125. And I
What?
was like, all right, like,
Oh my God.
okay, my day is going to be a
You're
little
like,
different.
I've got about 20 minutes till,
Yeah, it was like, I'm not driving the boat. I was like, no one needs me to drive the boat. All right, I'll figure it out. And I was like supremely stoned all day.
oh man,
No, I mean, not all day. Like, I was kind of back to normal by like dinner time, but it was like, it was
it's a
definitely like a
trip.
5, 6 hour. Like, I'm very. We also got for Crystal's 30th, we flew out to Seattle during COVID, rented a house, and we're just gonna, like, because no bars or anything were open. Like, her
Mhm.
sister was still living out there. We were just gonna party and do our thing and just hang out in this sick house in Magnolia, I think, in the
Mm.
Magnolia section of Seattle. And we all got COVID. So, and everyone felt
Oh
like
fuck.
shit.
I
So we were
remember I
just
was
like,
actually living up
yeah,
there. Yeah, we were supposed to meet up. I actually
dude,
remember this. Yeah.
yes. And we were like, it was crazy because we were like stuck. Like, we didn't know, like, none of us felt comfortable. Like, we couldn't get back on a flight, like, knowingly having COVID. Everyone
Yeah.
had symptoms. Everyone felt like shit for a couple of days. So we were like all self medicating with like 100 mil. Like, everyone would wake up and everyone would eat 100 milligrams, and we would just watch movies and like melt into like the couch and
Uh,
floor. And it was actually very therapeutic and nice. But
yeah.
those 2 times were like the highest I've ever been
Not
on
the
edibles.
experience you planned, but
Yeah, not at all,
dude,
dude.
okay,
Not
so
at all.
I mean, I'm pretty sure my mom doesn't listen to this, so forgive me for talking about this. But my mom actually, like, within the last year, had a crazy edible experience. This poor woman. She told me she laughs about it now, but it was like crazy for her. So she takes these. She's had back surgeries and stuff, so she has like a little bit of like pain that kind of happens most days. And she, after a while, she got away from the pain pills, like the orange pill bottles, and she's been taking like
Mm-hmm.
half a little, not a gummy, but like a hard candy or something like that. I don't know, maybe it's 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams max. So she's been taking that for quite a while. She has this brand that she likes. She does pretty much every day. She takes like a half of these things. She goes about her day. She feels pretty good. Maybe she'll take another one before bed or whatever. But she was out of the hard candies, and so in the same brand, they had a chocolate of the same thing. And she took that, and then she went to this poor thing. She basically went to the country club. And so she's in this place where it's like, a country club is just what you expect.
Stuffy,
It's,
yeah.
yeah, it's stuffy and golf carts, and we're uppity, and we have a couple martinis, but they probably don't get hammered or anything. I don't know how it goes really. It's country club, but she's also in this place, and I describe country club. It's not just like some restaurant, because my mom, like, she grew up in like a very small town. She was like pretty country. Like, a country club is just not where she would find herself even as a kid, like, let alone as an adult. But she happens to be. She's dating this new woman who goes to the country club a lot. So she's in this new experience. She's never dated a woman before either. So she's recently in this, like, just this new world. She's loving life,
Yeah.
but she's in this new world. Takes this edible that she's normally used to taking. She's sitting there at the table, and she starts to, like, she's kind of getting a little high, and so she, like, leans over. She's like texting her girlfriend, fiance now, and she's like, "Hey, I'm feeling that edible. Like, I normally don't feel it, but I'm feeling edible." And her fiance's like, "Okay, cool." Like, keeps talking, and she's like talking to all these ladies, meeting all these nice ladies for the first time. She starts like tripping, and she gets to the point where she's like, she leans over, and I guess she says, "I actually think I might pass out. I think I might faint. I'm like tripping out." She faints at the fucking table from an edible. turns into this whole episode. Long story short, it
Oh,
turns into like my mom gets paranoid, and she's like, she said that she was like going through like some like weird like old memory shit was coming up, and she like didn't really trust any of these ladies. Suddenly she's in the kitchen tripping out. They called an ambulance, like all this
oh
shit over an edible.
no.
This my poor mom,
Oh,
I know.
uh,
But it's she laughs about it now, and like I've had a long discussion
good.
with her about it, and but that is the thing, we are dealing with this. I feel bad, I just like exposed my mom. But okay,
Nah,
she
yeah.
doesn't listen to the podcast or anything, but she's
It's
cool with
it's
it
a
now.
it's a good lesson. It's a good lesson for
Yeah,
people to
well,
like
and so
hear.
I was talking to her. What I know about the process of even making edibles, like it's probably. I mean, you think, imagine a kitchen in a pan, and like the liquid that has the THC and the stuff that makes you psychoactively react as a human, and maybe it floats onto the corner of the pan. And maybe like that corner of the brownie is a fucking lot stronger than this other corner because gravity, or the
Yes.
weight when they mix it in with the chocolate, it's such a thick substance that it doesn't mix quite well, and so you're just kind of gambling sometimes with edibles, and I think maybe chocolate might be a bigger gamble at this point anywhere. So
Yeah, I always try to tell like newer people to like stay away from the bars, right? Like if it's a bar and you're breaking off like a square for the
yes,
just the reason you said, what I think works better is like the individual gummies, right?
yes,
So if it's like one gummy works in my head as a like from a factory perspective, I see it as like bloop, like you know what I mean, it kind of
yeah,
like shoots in like four spots. And then it's like I mean, even that concoction isn't totally perfect. Um, but dude, I like you remember eating brownies like when you're a kid and like you could eat a brownie and be totally fine, and then you could eat a brownie and be on Mars.
yep,
um Again, like capitalism having like more of a hand in it like has definitely like kind of standardized the doses.
mhm,
um but yeah, dude, we used to get these chocolate bars back in the day that were like so insanely inconsistent, and we were like early 20s, so it was like fun. You would like break up a
yeah,
bar and it would be like who is going to be drooling on themselves, like which one of us. And they were like hash oil, so they were like intense, and we were drinking 20 beers a night back in those days. Like it was just the true like college partying days, but it was
dude.
like it was like a spin of roulette of like who out of the four pieces of the bar was going to be like really messed up.
It's crazy how careless you are with drugs and stuff when you're a teen. Like think about like the first time my first experience with Molly was one of my good friends took Molly before school one day, and I didn't even know what it was, and I was like fucking with him. Like I realized that he was reacting to what I was doing, and I was like making fun of him and like just making him have a terrible trip, like a complete asshole. But I didn't know any better.
Yeah, you didn't know any better.
Yeah, and that's how it was. Like you after school, you get a bunch of as many Four Locos as your money can buy. You get
Yeah,
whatever weed you can get your hands on, and you explore. And so
yeah,
I
dude. It's
imagine we didn't do a ton of like mushrooms or acid or anything when I was a teen. When I was in a later teen, we were doing a lot of like ecstasy and stuff. So that's another gamble. But yeah, I mean it's all fun, but you got to be careful.
Yeah, I was a little later to the game. Like I smoked pot and stuff in like high school, but I like didn't really try anything else until like, the for me like the experimental years of like college, and then like, first real job and post college. That was kind of like my experimenting and kind of figuring it all out. Um yeah, it's well, dude, like it's crazy as a child how insanely reckless you are with your body, drug. Like you don't your value of like what this whole thing is
Yeah,
just not exactly formulated yet.
yeah, yeah. You just
But
wanting to feel good right now. Like you're not thinking about yourself as a whole or like how this experience might affect you later. You just like, cool, I'll do that. That's gonna make me feel cool right now. All right, let's feel cool right now.
yeah, like dude, like driving around smoking blunts, like in the woods, like driving way too fast with a
Oh my
million
god.
trees. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're just down this little like country road flying, like smoking, like it's like we're invincible. It's just bananas.
Yeah,
Um, and now like with having a child, and I know that that sort of behavior is, maybe a little far away on the horizon. It's like, all
yeah,
right, how do I make this kid a little bit more mature than I was, where their decision making is a little bit, they still enjoy themselves, and they still make the mistakes and learn from them, but like how do I make her a little bit more
yeah,
respectful of like the value of life?
yeah.
Maybe that's an impossibility, but at
Right.
least like I'm trying to think that
Well,
way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the art with being a parent is, whatever whatever it looks like. Benny, when she's 14, she's gonna be stoned, mobbing over in a golf cart or something. Maybe 17 or whatever it is. Like she's gonna have
Yeah.
some version of exploring her consciousness or having fun, a little bit too much fun with her friends when she's a teen or something. And so it's the art of, you and Crystal as parents looking back to how do I teach her lessons that are actually helpful? How do I hear her and see her for like, hey, I did pretty much similar stuff. So like, I'm not making you feel bad, but like, let's look at the future. Like, how do you take the things that you didn't learn in that moment or that you ignored that your parents tried to teach you and try to teach them a little bit better, or like reach through with your own personal experience?
Yeah, well, I think like keep telling them about your own personal experiences. Like for me, that's like a
Huge.
difference I would make with my parents. Where like
Right.
I'm not gonna like I never did anything. Like no, dude, I did it all. Like, and I will tell her. I'll give her like bits and pieces based on her age and maturity. But like I'm gonna tell her what I did. Like
Right.
I'm gonna if she asks me a question, like obviously within reason of like her age, I'm gonna be honest with her because I
Yeah.
think that that's how you like cultivate an honest, open relationship.
I
You
think that
know?
demystifies it too. I think it takes it from this
Yes.
like, ooh, alcohol to like, yeah, like I've
Right.
done that. What do you want
Yes.
to know about it? I'd love to tell you anything you would like to know about it from my
Yeah.
experience. Like
Definitely. Yeah.
open book.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I think that's like my step. And the other thing that I will do differently, many things, but like I don't. My parents always said like you represent me, right? Like you represent me, like you represent our last name, like and
Interesting.
you're an Andes, and I'm kind of gonna be like you, you don't owe me shit. Like I just think like I you don't owe me anything. Like I owe you, and I think that sort
Mm.
of disposition that like you're representing yourself, like you're living for you. Um, like I think that for me is like a distinction that I will make with her.
What do you think that is? Is that like legacy? Like you're so
Yeah,
if you want a child to like focus on like their name, like their like your name holds merit, holds power. Is that like focus on your legacy or like what is that? What? Because I didn't have
yeah,
that.
I think so. I think it's legacy. I also think like I'm the oldest, firstborn son.
Sure.
It's
Right.
some like Game of Thrones shit where it's like, you're and my father and I we share a first and last name. We have different middle names, so I think that kind of like there's old school. Whereas like I told my dad because we didn't find out Bennett's sex before she was born. We like were surprised, which was fun, and I encourage anyone that's having a child to
I
like
love that you guys
be
did that. Yeah.
surprised. Yeah, because like, there's not many surprises you can give yourself, and that was like a true surprise.
That's cool.
Um, but I told my dad like if it's a boy, like I'm not naming him William Andes, and he was like, "What? Why?" Like, not didn't get it. And I was like, "Dude, because like not that I spent my entire life like living up to you or like looking up to you, like or trying to be you, but like I want my son to like do his own thing,
Yeah. To be
like
an
I'm there for
individual.
him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was never like trying to fill anyone's shoes, but it was like that whole thing of like, you represent me, you represent this family, like anything you do in the outside world. And I was like a well behaved like kid, until I wasn't, you know what I mean? Until I got to puberty and, my mom like trying to like constrain me and and I just like, I was like, all right, I'm doing whatever I want. I'm going to be a little crazy psycho. But yeah, I don't know how we got down this rabbit hole, but
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, I think just we're talking kind of about like legacy and about
yes,
how your last name does hold some sort of merit and I look at that from I don't know I don't think I had anything like that. I mean my childhood was just different. I think there was I don't know I'm just curious how I operated differently than other people, not really because I was always very individual, but I was never I'm a Rhines. Like I was never, like mine's very much me. And I wonder, like, if I was my dad's name's Jim, if I was just Jim Jr., if I would have been a little bit more like, well, what do we represent as a Rhines? Like, what does a Rhines do? Maybe I would do things that my dad did just because he did them, and maybe that wouldn't be the best thing for me or something. I don't know.
right. Or maybe like, now, like after all the work you've done, you'd still hold some negative feelings towards your dad because you did have the same last name, and
Mm,
he made some mistakes when he was younger or whatever. Like it could be that much or it could be nothing. We named her. We took both of our middle names. So my middle name's Bennett. Crystal's middle name is Renee, so we did Bennett, Renee, Andes. So her initials are Bra, BRA,
Mm.
which like is nothing, but like naming a human is so like
Oh, you probably think about that,
intense.
right?
Yeah, but so I like once we kind of like we're like, oh, let's take both of our middle names. It's kind of cool. Bennett, we'll call her Benny. It's a little tomboyish. Like that's just where we landed. Um, I was like, nice. Like her initials are Bra. Like, and I'm gonna give her that nickname. Like when she's like 8 or 9 on the soccer field, I'm just gonna start calling her Bra, and she's gonna hate it, and it's gonna
Yeah.
be hysterical. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell her like she's gonna be like mad at me that I like made her initials Bra. Like, dude, this whole thing is like super intense and super whatever, but like it's funny, dude. Like let
Yeah.
it's light. Let's keep it light. Keep it
Yeah.
light. You'll enjoy
Yeah.
it if you keep it light. Like the dichotomy of life. Like it's very long and life is super short, but it's also very long and it's super intense and it's also super like funny. So
Yeah.
I don't
So the little like the word play and the little giggles, you got to take them, man. Like,
know.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
Bra. Like that's gonna be your nickname on the soccer field is Bra. You know,
Right.
and it's so cool though. I feel like that's gonna be part of her personality. You know, like what's up, Bra?
Yeah. What's up, bro? Yeah,
What's up, bro?
exactly.
What's up, bro?
Exactly, dude.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's the beauty of it. Man, we're getting fairly up here in time. I
yeah,
mean,
dude, I think you tried to cut it like 20 minutes ago and I just kept
no,
rambling.
no,
So,
no. I'm in no rush. I feel
dude,
like, to be honest, you and I could probably talk forever. So maybe we could do this
yeah,
again
dude.
sometime too.
Yeah, dude, I would love to do this again. Now that we've like, now that we've done it once, I like talking to you, dude. It's easy. It's very easy. And you're a good person to bounce ideas off of. I
Cool.
really came with like no agenda,
Same.
which I think was like wonderful. So like I don't know, maybe next time, not that I'll come with any agenda, but I'll come at least with like I want to bounce these ideas off of you or
Yeah.
something, you know?
No, that's super fun. I do that with my friend Spencer, who is he's just like my ultimate philosopher friend. Like he goes to college for like philosophy and stuff, but I'm just an armchair philosopher who's obsessed with the act of philosophy and studying on my own. So him and I a lot of times we'll do 3.5 hour long podcasts just based off of like one subject or like one book or one article or one like, hey, we have this philosophical thought about hauntology. Let's talk about that. And like, well, I mean, it's just great. So yeah, we can approach it with a subject. So keep that in mind just as you're living about your life. If there's something where you're like, man, I think it'd be a dope conversation to have with Jake, just make it a note and shoot me a text. I think it'd be fun.
I will.
Yeah, I'm this podcast is very I'm letting it be organic. I'm not trying to strangle it too much. I have a lot of, I think I told you guys before, I have a lot of like guests just sitting in my inbox that I just need to schedule. Like a lot of really cool people that I am pumped to have an opportunity to talk to. I just the scheduling aspect of things is not only the act of like emailing back and forth and scheduling and talking to people's assistant and emailing back 6 different times and changing the schedule, that alone, but then also just like my job, like I work in the live event industry, and so I'm just a gig worker. Like I randomly, like sometimes they'll be like, hey, tomorrow can you work this thing all day? And I'm like, I guess, but fuck my plans for tomorrow. So it's just hard for me to schedule all these podcasts, and then I end up turning down paid money for podcast guests, which I love doing, but it doesn't make me money. So it's.
Is there a day of the week that you like don't typically get those phone calls? Like is Monday? Like do you not have to do events on Monday or is it Tuesday?
I've thought about that. It's weekends certainly aren't the business. Like I'm very busy on weekends and just I still do a lot of DJing too, so that's a lot on the weekends. But no, I was thinking maybe Tuesdays, and basically what I was thinking, just to help myself with this whole thing. So I had 2 thoughts. So much to think about this. For one, I was thinking of just doing Tuesdays. I'd never take work on Tuesdays, pretty much never, and I just do podcasts and poetry because I'm just starting next Tuesday in San Marcos. Me along with someone else we're hosting an open mic poetry night in San Marcos at this place.
That's
so
cool.
I'm starting to do that every Tuesday, and so I was thinking take every Tuesday off anyway, do the podcast every Tuesday, at least get 1 episode out, whether it's I've already pre-recorded it or pre-record, post an episode every day and record an episode every Tuesday. I just said that confusing. Basically, all my podcasts work on Tuesdays. That's what I'm kind of going for.
And that's what I was just getting at. Like if you could pick a day, that could be your day. That's how I would do it too.
Hey, so as a podcast listener, there's something to be said about how long I often wait, because a lot of times I take a long time to post. and it loses a little bit of the energy by then. Like if it's a couple weeks after I post it, it loses a little bit of the energy. Do you think if there was a live every Tuesday at 11 a.m., there's either a live podcast or every Tuesday at 11 a.m. there's going to be a new Junkyard Love podcast, would you be more prone to listen to it and watch that as a podcast consumer if it's...
Yeah, I think when they're like, when like Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura like bank a podcast and they start talking about something current and it's from a month ago, I get uninterested. Yeah. And I understand the business, right? Like they're super duper busy. So I think if you can record on a Tuesday and have it out within 2 Tuesdays of that, I think that's definitely healthier. I think it would be tough for me to like listen to a live, like if I would definitely tune in from time to time, but like from a scheduling perspective, like you know what I mean? Like I don't know if I'd be able to like pop in for like every Tuesday at 11 there's a live podcast being filmed. I think that's cool. But for me, I do think it's kind of important to like, I don't know, get it out. Because not that we touched on too many not that we touched on too many things, but like we kind of talked about, I said, that San Francisco made mushrooms legal, this week. So like,
right.
If this is out a month from now, then like, people can kind of timestamp it, which,
that is part of there is an aliveness to posting it sooner than later for sure. I'm definitely
I'm comfortable. Like you can whatever. I don't know what you have to do to make it work, but like you don't need to cut anything that we talked about from my side of things.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. I mean, a lot of times I don't have to, but so one, I record the audio separately, my audio, and so I layer that over because I think it sounds better than what Zoom records. I also like adding an intro and an outro. So that's part of it. And then sometimes I color correct a little bit too. So it's all things that I could live without. Like I think I'd be fine. I don't think anybody's going to stop listening to my podcast because those things change a little bit.
Because you color corrected, the blemishes on my face.
Yeah, they're like, this episode you're looking a little pale, Jake. So But I mean that's the art of it. I think eventually, I mean what a lot of people do is they'll have some sort of assistant who handles all these things, and I just show up as the talent. Yes. Like all I got to do is interviews. Ideally, that would be a cool place to eventually land, but thus far, I'm not in a position to be throwing money into the podcast in such a way. But I do think I think it would be cool. So this podcast I listen to, Buddha at the Gas Pump, Back Gap, they do every episode or every guest they do is live, but they also have like an open like Facebook group and a couple of other things open at the same time, and so people can submit questions in real time, and he talks to them in real time. So it's like, oh hey, a question just came in from Anne from Kentucky, and she asked this, and it helps the conversation percolate. So that is cool. But then it posts afterwards, so it's the live, but then it's available I think right afterwards. Like so whatever was recorded is now available to listen to later.
That's actually really cool. I don't think it's a bad idea to link that up with like you and your buddy who have like an agenda or a thing you want to talk about. Like you could do it like me just spitballing here, but like you could do like a book club. Like, hey, we're going to read this book and then we're going to do a live show. And then that way, the people that want like, oh, I read that book, or let me read that book in the next month. And then they're in there on the live chat.
Yeah, I like that. That would actually be cool.
Yeah. Any sort of interactive stuff. God, can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Are your AirPods dying?
You can hear me?
Yeah.
They just died, and I'm honestly about to pee my pants. But
okay, all right. Well, I'll let you go, brother. Man, I really appreciate you. You're a wonderful person to talk to. It's great to even know you, let alone have you on my podcast, man. I really appreciate you. Let's stay in touch and hit me up once in a while. And thanks again, man.
Thank you. I'd love to come back.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, everybody, love yourself. Drink some water. Stretch. And just love your family. Be a little more present when you can find the time to just be right where you're at, and just enjoy that. It's a gift.
At what age do we learn how to have better conversations? At what age do we learn to have better conversations with ourselves?
Knowledge is power.